Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is 3 o'clock, 3:07 to be exact, on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair on this Tuesday, September 17th. It's a pretty nice day, 82 degrees outside. Man, I wish it would rain, don't you? I mean, I'm
we could use it, yeah.
We could use some rain. You know, what about all that rain we were supposed to have last weekend that just sort of, didn't show up? So, not that I'm blaming anybody, but I was sort of counting on it.
I guess it beats the alternative, what they're having in North Carolina.
Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that. All right, so I want to start off, if I could today, with a discussion about the assassination attempt from last Sunday. Much is being said, and some of it is coming from the Trump campaign, where they are putting out the word that they believe that Democrats and their hateful rhetoric are responsible for these attacks against Donald Trump. Here is Caroline Levitt, who speaks on behalf of the Trump campaign.
He is the most threatened man in the world right now. President Trump absolutely needs more protection. I think all Americans would agree with that. And again, it's up to the Democrats. The onus is on them to turn down the rhetoric in this country. They are just repeating that talking point because they have nothing else to run on in this election, and it's shameful.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about that. The Trump campaign has also released a bunch of quotes that they say come from, and some of these I remember. Kamala Harris repeatedly saying that Trump is a threat to our democracy and our fundamental freedoms. It's on us to recognize the threat that Trump poses. There's this one. They even go back to an old 2019 or 2018 clip of Kamala Harris appearing on the Ellen Show.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
Do you remember that? I do. Joe Biden, it's time to put Trump in a bullseye. I mean this from the bottom of my heart, said the president. Trump is a threat to the nation. Joe Biden, there is one existential threat. It is Donald Trump. Joe Biden, Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. He is literally a threat to everything America stands for. Joe Biden, Trump and MAGA Republicans are a threat to the very soul of this country. Joe Biden, Trump and MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic, and it is a threat to this country. Tim Walz, are Republicans a threat to democracy? Yes. Are they going to put people's lives in danger? Yes. Nancy Pelosi, Trump is a threat to our democracy of the kind we have not seen. Even T.J. Ducklow, who's a former spokesperson for the campaign, the Harris campaign, he's no longer with them. Trump is an existential threat, urgent threat to our democracy. So, I mean, they point out that this has been the constant drumbeat from the left, calling, the Trump campaign and those who support Trump a threat to the very fabric of this country. Just less than 24 hours after the attempt on Donald Trump's life at his golf club in West Palm Beach, Florida, Hillary Rodham Clinton was doing an interview and said,
"We can't go back and give this very dangerous man another chance to do harm to our country and the world."
Rand Paul, a senator from Kentucky, says Democrats need to tone it down just a bit.
Without question, I blame CNN, MSNBC, and all the other left-wing outlets for promoting this idea that Donald Trump is going to end elections, that democracy is being threatened, that it's going to be the end of the world. They've made it so dire and they've so misinformed the public about Donald Trump's positions that every crazy person in the country now is ginned up. So CNN, MSNBC, the Democrats in general need to tone it down because they are inciting this anger that is coming forth through disturbed people or violent people or otherwise, but they need to tone down their rhetoric without question. They're not saying Donald Trump's policies are wrong. They are saying he is evil, that he will ruin the country, there'll be no more voting, that somehow certain types of people won't get to vote. None of that is true. It's all a lie. All the things they said about collusion with Russia were a lie. They can't handle a discussion, a simple civil discussion over policy, but they need to stop it. We've had 2 shooting episodes in about a 2-month period. I fear for what comes forward. It's got to stop, and this is coming from the left. What do? They immediately blame him for talking about immigration problems. Somehow it's his fault for bringing up an issue that people are unhappy about. No, it's about the left inciting people to say, you know what, you may not be able to solve this with an election because he's so dangerous, because he's the American Hitler. They say it over and over again, and they are responsible for ratcheting this up to violence.
Wow, pretty straightforward stuff from Rand Paul, who also is concerned about requests for more money from the Secret Service. Everybody seems to be saying, in fact, a great number of senators have just taken to the Senate gallery to say that they think that the Secret Service needs more money. Rand Paul, not so sure about that.
And I saw someone from law enforcement say, had he been president, this wouldn't happen. Well, I think he needs to be treated the same as the acting president. We have the resources. It's not a lack of money. It's a lack of oversight and people doing their job. Someone should not be able to sit with a weapon for 12 hours and not be detected. That's unacceptable. But in the first assassination attempt, they had a suspicious individual for 90 minutes and didn't stop the proceeding. They also had a general broadcast of man on a roof at 6:08, and the gunshots were at 6:11. They had 3 minutes to have President Trump taken on the stage, and it didn't happen. This isn't about throwing money at the problem. It's about human error, but it's also about responsibility. I like people in law enforcement. I'm generally in favor of them. They have a hard job. But if you're in charge of security and you have failures such as not guarding a roof, not having counter snipers on the roof, it's an inexcusable error. You can't be in that position anymore. You can't be in charge of the next person that has to be protected because you've shown yourself incapable of being in charge of security.
Now, Richard Blumenthal is a Democrat. He's a very liberal Democrat, but he sits on this ad hoc committee that is now investigating both the earlier assassination attempt, and now they're adding to it the latest assassination attempt. And he is very, very angry at the Department of Homeland Security. Remember, this is a Democrat. This is a very bipartisan investigation that's happening on Capitol Hill. And Richard Blumenthal is hacked off at the DHS because they're not sharing information.
I am reaching a point of total outrage because the response from the Department of Homeland Security has been totally lacking. In fact, I think it's tantamount to stonewalling in many respects. The Department of Homeland Security has to be more forthcoming, not only to me, but to the American people, and it has to do it quickly, or it will fuel the conspiracy theories that are so dangerous to our democracy, as well as undermining its own credibility.
What are they not providing you?
Documents, witnesses, other evidence that is important. They are, in effect, saying no to the request for information from a legitimate inquiry that is really important to their service to the American people.
Are you going to subpoena for these records?
If necessary, I'll certainly support a subpoena. It takes very little drafting to do a subpoena here, and even less time. I know how to do subpoenas. I'm very willing and able to use the subpoena process if necessary to get information from the Department of Homeland Security. And we have told them repeatedly about our frustration. I'm deeply dissatisfied and disappointed.
I mean, remember, this is a Democrat who's upset with the current Biden administration and the people in charge of the Homeland Security Department, which would be Alejandro Mayorkas once again. Why won't you give them? They have absolute right to oversight of that agency and absolute right to investigate this matter. And yet here's a Democrat complaining we can't get documents from the Department of Homeland Security. That's inexcusable. Inexcusable. As for more money, some people think money is the solution. One of those who does not is a Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
We don't want to just throw more money at a broken system. We're looking at all aspects of it, and we'll make the right determination.
Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana.
We need answers more than the Secret Service needs money. In the real world, when you don't do your job, you get fired. In the world of Washington, when you don't do your job, you get more money. because obviously you need it.
Well, he makes a good point there. The Secret Service has admitted that the golf course wasn't searched before the Trump assassination attempt. This is coming from, I think, the New York Times. Secret Service agents did not sweep the outskirts of Donald Trump's Florida golf course where his alleged would-be assassin was hiding because the former president's visit was an off-the-record plan, the embattled agency's director admitted. Ryan Wesley Routh, age 58, allegedly set up a sniper's nest on the edge of Trump's International West Palm Beach and hid there undetected for nearly 12 hours before Trump, age 78, teed off on Sunday afternoon, federal prosecutors said. Acting Secret Service head Ronald Rowe Jr. said yesterday that agents did not mount an intense effort to search the perimeter because the 45th president's round wasn't on his official calendar. The president was even supposed to be there. It was not his official schedule. He told reporters, we played that for you yesterday. And so we put together a security plan, and that security plan worked. I'll talk more about this in just a moment. Let's move on. J.D. Vance talks about what happened in his conversation with Donald Trump. And here that is.
I want to just address the elephant in the room here, which is, of course, just a couple of days ago, my running mate, my dear friend and our next president, was nearly assassinated again. 2 assassination attempts in as many months. And I think that it's time to say to the Democrats, to the media, to everybody that has been attacking this man and trying to censor this man for going on 10 years, cut it out or you're going to get somebody killed. Now, I actually, of course, heard about the news before almost anybody else. I was sitting at home with my son, and we were doing, what we always do when my wife's not around. We were playing video games. We get that like 1 hour. All right, we can play video games, and then before mom comes back, we got to cut that crap out. Sorry, honey. I just told on myself. But we're sitting there, and I get a phone call. It says Donald J. Trump, so I answer it. And he says, JD, you won't believe it. They just tried to do it again. I said, what did they try to do? He said, well, they just tried to shoot me again. And I said, what? No way. I almost couldn't believe it when he first told me. And I said, oh, my God, sir, I'm so glad you're okay. But, you're physically okay. Clearly, you wouldn't be calling me. Are you okay in all the ways that matter? And he said, yeah, I'm doing fine. And that's just who he is. He just gets shot, almost shot a second time, and he's totally fine. He was a little annoyed about one thing, though. He was mad because he was on the 6th hole and he was about to make a birdie putt. And he said, I'm kind of pissed off they wouldn't let me finish my birdie. I was having the round of my life, and I said, well, okay, sir, I think it makes sense, though, that they got you off the golf course. But, it goes to show there is a difference in leadership style. There is a guy who takes a bullet to the head and stands up and says, fight, fight, fight. There is a guy who takes a second almost assassination attempt and responds to it with grace and good humor. And then there's a woman who is terrified of the American media. Who do we think ought to be the president of the United States? Donald J. Trump.
So one of the big questions that has been looming out there that everybody's trying to get the answer to, and everybody seems to have an opinion about, was this a conspiracy, this attack on Trump? Did he have help? Was it more than one person, or did he just get lucky in guessing that Donald Trump was going to play golf? I'll give you my thoughts on that in just a short while. Right now, 20 minutes past the hour. All right, if you're thinking about buying some furniture for your house, or maybe that old worn-out appliances, the washer, the dryer, your stove, your refrigerator, whatever it is, it's on its last leg, and you got to replace it, where are you going to go? Well, I would recommend that you go to a company that's been around in Middle Tennessee for more than 100 years as a family-run business. That's pretty amazing. I'm talking, of course, about D.T. McCall's and Sons, and they got everything you want. I mean, have you been to a D.T. D.T. McCall's store, you really should go because those places are amazing. They're cavernous, some of them. You just wander from room to room to room, and you think you've seen it all, and you turn around a corner, and there's even more stuff that you haven't seen yet. You're going to find what you need there. And by the way, D.T. McCall's and A.J. McCall and all the brothers out there, they actually really take a great deal of care to make sure that they provide only the best of products. They don't want you to be dissatisfied with the things that you buy. No upcharge for delivery, setup, and haul away. And I guarantee you'll like doing business with this company. I've done a lot of business with them each and every time. It's been a pleasure. To find out about their 5 convenient locations and where they're located, one near you, just go to their website, dtmccalls.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
The death toll is climbing from exploding pagers of a terrorist group's members. We'll tell you about it at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That is one bizarre story. We'll talk about that in the next hour as well. It's Ken Weaver there in the newsroom and Chris Weber in the control room. We're glad that you guys are there. Hey, listen, I want to talk a little bit about whether or not this was a conspiracy. I mean, I've been having interesting conversations with people on social media, sort of behind the scenes, just personal messaging with people. And they think that I'm being a little Pollyannish about, this whole thing because they say it smacks of a conspiracy. Now, you could be right. I mean, we don't know for sure who this guy talked to. We don't know if there was somebody who was feeding him information. We know only one thing so far. Now, we'll get more information as time goes forward because they have his phone and they can track him. They'll know where he was the day before. They'll know where he was a week before. They'll know where he was a month before. They'll be able to track his movements because they have the cell phone and they have the ability to do that. So we'll get that answer in short time. But here's what we do know. We know for sure at this point that he arrives at that location where he was planning to take the shot, about 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. On Sunday. So he's there at 2 o'clock, and then he was there all the way until the incident occurred, and then he fled the scene at about 1:30. So he's there about almost 12 hours. So the question is, how did he know to be there is the thing that bothers so many people. And I have a couple of things that I want to point out that seem to be evolving if you've really been digging deep into this story. Number one is that the golf game, I'm not sure the golf game was even planned when he got there at 2 a.m. in the morning. Because here's my background on that. Sean Hannity has breakfast at a diner with someone who actually ended up playing with golf. In fact, that person got the call while they were having breakfast. And in fact, Sean Hannity was invited to go along and play golf, and he said no, he waved off. The other guy accepted. So it doesn't sound like the golf game was even planned until sometime Sunday morning. Again, it's about 6 hours, at least 6 or 7 hours after the guy showed up at that location. So if the golf outing had not been planned until that morning, then how could he have possibly been given information to be there the night before? See, that's the question I have. So again, maybe we'll find out some more detail about that. Maybe there was some talk about it earlier, but it seems to me this whole golf outing was whopped up Sunday morning about 7 or 8 o'clock. And Donald Trump called this guy and said, hey, do you want to go play golf? And they were putting together, I guess, at least a foursome. So that's what it appears to me, is that they didn't plan the golf outing. Now, this is not unusual for Donald Trump. This is unusual. He often decides at the last minute, especially when he's at Mar-a-Lago, to drive, the 4 miles over to the other golf course and play the course. He does it very often on a Sunday. So it might have been, just a good guess by the shooter. Hey, he often does that. I'm going to stake him out and see if he shows up. All right? I mean, that's possible. The other thing that I found out that was very interesting is this particular gap in the shrubbery and the trees and that chain link fence that you've seen so many times now on television was well known to the Secret Service. It was definitely a place they were going to check. You know why? Still photographers would sneak up there to take pictures of Trump playing golf. That was the spot they used all the time because it gave them a nice viewpoint. They knew it. The photographers knew it because they had gone there many times before, both the paparazzi and the press corps that follows him. I mean, we used to send... I myself remember when I was at Fox and we had a president playing golf, we would send crews out and they knew where to position themselves to get a picture of them playing golf if it was important to a story that day. So Secret Service knew that they'd encountered photographers there before, so they were going to check that spot to be sure. That is, I think, very interesting information. So was it a conspiracy or was it not? Right now, if you twist him arm and said, you have to call it, I think that there's more that says it wasn't a conspiracy than it was, but I leave open the possibility that with more information about this individual and his movements and who he was talking to, that could possibly change. 3:30 now on Super Talk.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we've got a crash just south of downtown. This is 65 northbound at Wedgwood Avenue, right there in the Belmont area. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Well, the Lebanese Ministry of Public Health says at least 9 people are dead, more than 2,700 others injured after a number of pagers exploded today. Tom Soufi Burridge is in Paris with more.
Lebanon's health ministry saying hundreds of people have been injured in what appears to be a coordinated and very sophisticated attack across Lebanon in multiple regions. Lebanese officials are saying that pagers, they are devices that can just receive messages, remember, have exploded.
Well, these pagers are used by Hezbollah to try to avoid Israeli detection. Hezbollah is calling it the biggest security breach in its war with Israel and is vowing to retaliate. Right now in Nashville, several proposed ordinances up for votes tonight in the Metro Council. Here's Channel 4's Brendan Tierney with one issue.
Metro Council members want to declare racism a public health crisis in Nashville. A resolution scheduled for a vote at tonight's meeting calls on the Metro Health Department and other organizations to address health disparities. The resolution says historic racism like building I-40 through North Nashville and underfunding black colleges has created health inequities. The resolution sponsors are hoping declaring racism a public health crisis will also help open up the door for more funding and resources down the line.
Also up for votes tonight, ordinances designed to limit demonstrations from what officials say are hate groups. One of the measures creates buffer zones in front of public places and parking lots. Another one changes the city's mask-wearing ordinance. The mayor wants to ban holding what he says are distracting signs over highways. And a fourth measure prohibits handing out handbills on private property before sunrise or after sunset. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the folks over at United Structural Systems. Foundation repair, waterproofing, concrete leveling. That's what they do. They've been around since 1994. More than 25,000 satisfied residential customers over the last 30 years or so. So listen, if you have that, the telltale signs of bricks that are cracking or walls that are bowing, drywall separating, chimneys tilting or leaning, these are all signs of a possible foundation issue, and they are just real experts in this. So you want to give them a call for that. What about underneath your house? Do you have standing water in the crawl space, musty odors, or floor joists with wood rot? These are real telltale signs that you've got a moisture issue, and that is not good on your home. You need to get them to come out and take a look at it. And then for their concrete leveling, they have a thing called a polylift system. So if it's sinking, sloping, or somehow your concrete has shifted, they can put it right back in good order, and it's cheaper to fix it than it is to replace it. They say replace it, don't raise it. Replace it, raise it instead, don't replace it. You got 615-488-7855. I'm going to do that again. Don't replace it, raise it. That's the right way. 615-488-7855. Learn more at USSTN.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionality, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
.38 now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Brian Wilson in the chair all the way up until 7 o'clock this evening. Hope that you're having a good Tuesday. And while you're driving around or wherever it is you're listening to the show, I want you to know we're very happy to have you aboard, and we appreciate that you have found favor with what we do. Okay, so let's do our 2024 update, and I'll give you some new numbers. Pennsylvania. The battleground polls are, I think, the most important polls, and we're getting conflicting results. Insider advantage in Pennsylvania, which is the swingiest of all swing states. I don't see a way for anybody to win without carrying the state of Pennsylvania. It's really where a lot of focus will be. Insider advantage has Trump up by 2 in Pennsylvania, and USA Today has Harris up by 3. So, I mean, you know, it's a wash. All of that, by the way, within the margin of error. In Georgia, I have to look at the numbers again here. Georgia, Trafalgar has Trump up by 1. So that's, again, within the margin of error. General election numbers, Harris tends to be doing a little better in the last couple of polls. She's up by 4 in the general election. Morning Consult says she's up by 6. I think that is an outlier. I haven't seen anything that shows that. It could just be, you know, they do that poll, I think, every day. So that could just be one poll that was a little wonky. Wouldn't read too much into that. But really, you don't look at one poll anyway. You look at all polls. You average them out. You look at the trend. You never really rely on this for anything more than a snapshot in time that gives you some indication of movement. And this just really hasn't been a lot of movement, even since the debate that many people thought Harris won. You can make your own opinion about that. But a lot of people looked at it and said Harris won. That was the general consensus. So it didn't really seem to move too much, I think. Here is a guy that I respect a great deal. It is Tom Bevan, who runs Real Clear Politics. It's his website. And he says, if you look at what's going on here, this looks an awful lot like 2016. In other words, this looks an awful lot like the last election that Donald Trump won.
This race looks an awful lot like 2016 to me. If you look at nationally, Kamala Harris is up 1.7% at our Real Clear Politics average. Remember, Hillary Clinton won that race by 2.1%, but lost in the Electoral College. And if you look at those 7 battleground states, and Michigan's the one that we include in that group, the biggest lead that anybody has there is less than 1.5 points. And if you take an average of the leads of those 7 states, Kamala Harris leads by 0.1%.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, that's how tight it is in the battleground states. He continues.
Kamala Harris leads by 0.1%. It is literally that close across the board. I think 4 or 5 of these states, the margin there is less than a half a percentage point. So it is really, really close in those battleground states.
See, I agree with Bevan. And again, what I love about Bevan is he takes all the polls, he averages them out. And so you have a bigger sample and you get a better feel for how things are. The bigger the sample, the more accurate the poll. So if you take, 5, 6, 7 polls and you average them together, they give you a trend. And the trend is, yes, it's tight. It's tight in the battleground states, and it's tight in the general election number. She may do a little better in the election number, but remember, in 2016, Hillary Clinton, she had won the general popular vote by more than 2%, and yet she lost because she lost the Electoral College battle. So it's really about the Electoral College battle, and as Bevan says, average out all of the 7 states, it has her leading by 0.1. That ain't much. So it's really, really, really tight. Too close to call, but I feel like it is. I think he's right. It's sort of shaping up more like 2016 than 2020. Did the Harris-Trump debate change the race? From Real Clear Polling, again, that's one of Tom Bevan's products. Last week's debate, the long-awaited high-stakes face-off between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, did little to move the political needle. Much of the political world and America agree that Harris won the debate. Harris managed to get under Trump's skin early and consistently making the former president appear easily agitated and over-focused on personal grievances. Democrat pundits lauded Harris's performance, calling her deft, tactful, and convincing. And by the way, so did the mainstream media. They loved it. But a look at the Real Clear Politics average over time shows that Harris' fortunes have not been distinctly altered by her winning performance pre-debate. Pre-debate, Harris led Trump by 1.1. A week after the debate, she leads by 1.8. Now, that ain't much. That's again, all within the margin of error. The Snap CNN poll showed confidence in Harris to handle the economy fell. Listen to this. The Snap CNN poll showed confidence in Harris to handle the economy fell by 2 points to 35% after the debate, while trust in Trump on the issue rose by 2 points to 55%. Why is that important? Well, when voters are asked, what is the one issue most important in deciding your vote this November, 22% answered the economy. It was the number one answer. That according to a New York Times Siena College poll. So if she fell on her confidence that she could handle the economy and put it back in good order, and Trump rose, that is a good sign. So we'll see exactly how it all plays out in regard to the numbers, but I think that was pretty good stuff. Again, here's a similar story from Fox News. Only a handful of voters say that last week's presidential debate caused them to reconsider their support for either Vice President Kamala Harris or former President Donald Trump, according to new polls. Only 3% of the debate watchers said the showdown in Philadelphia caused them to reconsider whom they may support as president, according to a Monmouth University national poll released on Tuesday. Just more than 7 in 10 respondents said the debate between the Democrat and Republican Party presidential nominee did not raise any doubts about the candidate they were already supporting in the White House race. That's a great question to ask. It's a generic question. They're not asking, who you were supporting, but did it change your mind about anything? And 7 in 10 said no. 8% of those surveyed said some doubts were raised, but the debate did not change their mind on their support. Additionally, 17% offered that they did not see or hear any part of the debate. That's interesting. How much this election is shifting measured in inches rather than yards right now, I agree with that. Monmouth University Polling Institute Director Patrick Murray said, we're basically at the point where turning out 10,000 extra voters in a key swing state could determine the outcome. He's right. Polling tells us the broad contours of the race, but it cannot measure these types of micro shifts, they said. And again, these are considered micro shifts, not significant movement. So there we have it. According to the Monmouth poll, 49% of registered voters nationwide said they would either definitely or probably vote for Harris. So that's 49%. And a separate question, just over 4 in 10 said they would definitely or probably cast a ballot for Trump. Every national poll conducted last week debate indicates the Harris with a lower to mid-single-digit advantage over Trump in the general election numbers. However, it remains a margin of error race. I'm going to say that again. It remains a margin of error race. So none of these polls are going to decide the matter for sure. And again, we don't rely heavily on the numbers. We look at them, we fold it into our larger analysis, and tell us what our expertise and our experience also tell us. But I got to tell you, I think Tom Bevan has probably the best take on this. Feels like the Hillary Clinton election a lot more than it did the Joe Biden election. So, Trump beat Hillary Clinton in the Electoral College, and the Electoral College numbers. Really, it's so tight, it's hard to know how that's going to go. It's well within the margin of error. All right. Taylor Swift endorsement of Harris prompts more people to vote for Trump. How about this? This is from wokespy.com. Following the presidential debate last week, pop singer Taylor Swift endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris in the upcoming election. The climate-conscious singer's endorsement was perhaps no surprise, given that their political positions have often favored Democrats. In the 2018 midterm elections, Swift endorsed Tennessee Democrats Phil Bredesen and Jim Cooper. Neither of them, of course, won. In 2020, she publicly endorsed the Biden-Harris ticket. While predictable, the singer, whose songs often contain references to her own bad decision-making, was expected to carry some weight in convincing moderate Swifties to vote Democrat. However, that's not happening. While Donald Trump may hate Taylor Swift, Harris feels the same to some extent to following the release of a YouGov poll. Only 8% of respondents to the poll said Swift endorsement is somewhat or likely to convince them to vote Democrat. Interestingly enough, 20% of respondents said they were now somewhat or much less likely to support Harris after receiving the singer's backing. So 8% said, yeah, I might now reconsider, and it might move me to vote for Harris. But 20% said it turned them off, and now that they are much more likely to support Trump. Many respondents were split as to whether Swift's endorsement will have a positive effect on Harris's campaign, with no difference at all. Fans made up 34% of those surveyed, with their biggest supporters being shocked, stunned, and amazed. I know. Female. Her biggest supporters are female. So, look, that two things happened. We had a debate. It was largely perceived that Harris probably did a little better than Trump in the debate, didn't move the needle. And then, immediately after that, Taylor Swift comes out and endorses Harris, and now there's an indication that did more harm than good. You hear it all right here. We get down into the nitty-gritty of it all. The Swifty news. 50 minutes now past the hour. You know, something awesome is happening at Genesis Diamonds this Friday through Sunday. You've been hearing about it. It's big. It's a 3-day designer engagement ring event showcasing the world's top 2 brands in bridal jewelry, Tacori and Verragio. Tacori from California, Verragio from New York. Both will be there with their entire lines, including all new rings for this special event. You can explore hundreds of exquisite American-made designer rings. Plus, Genesis will have special incentives, zero interest financing, and up to $5,000 in instant savings. In addition, Genesis has an expanded selection of GIA certified diamonds for this 3-day event. All shapes, all sizes, rock bottom prices on the rock you want. This is the best of the best. Every Tacori ring handcrafted by master artisans with exceptional quality. Every Verragio ring made by hand with unmatched attention to detail. These are brands that other jewelers only wish they could offer, but at Genesis, they have the entire Tacori and Verragio collections, and they're all going to be on display this weekend. Don't miss the bridal jewelry event of the year, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Genesis Diamonds in Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
The terrorist group Hezbollah blames Israel, vows retaliation for exploding pagers, which the terrorists used to avoid Israeli detection. This story and more at 4 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
It's 57 minutes now past the hour. Let's take a look at the markets. Basically, the markets were about as flat as a pancake today. Dow Jones Industrials up 15 points. S&P up 1.5 points. NASDAQ up 35. So all of this is sort of very flat in anticipation of a big decision from the Fed on interest rates tomorrow. Let's check in with John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management to find out more. Good afternoon, John.
Hey, good afternoon, Brian. Yep, market very, very flat today. It's the market's a little bit nervous, and investors waiting for the big decision tomorrow that the Federal Reserve is going to come out. They've definitely communicated that they're going to pivot. It's going to be a pivot on interest rates, and the debate really is it going to be a quarter of a point or half a point? If it's a quarter point, then the market probably interprets that as a soft landing. The economy is stronger. If it's a half a point, the market could interpret that the market's weaker than what's been communicated. Now, we did get a piece of the puzzle today. Retail sales came out at a positive 0.1%. It was expected to actually decrease, so that may give the Fed some more confidence. But tomorrow, that report's going to be a big report and definitely a market mover.
All right, John, I never asked you a question here, but if you had to make a guess.
I'm calling a quarter point after the retail sales report today.
I think you're right. All right. Thank you, John. We'll find out tomorrow. Listen, if you want to find out what Beacon Capital Management can do to help you get ready for your retirement, just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 59 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. Exploding pagers in Lebanon. What is that all about? We'll explain coming up in the next hour.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now, Lebanon's Hezbollah is blaming Israel for exploding pagers, killing 9 and maiming possibly thousands of its members today, including Iran's envoy to Beirut, who was wounded. Israel has said it will not be commenting on this. We asked Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett, who tells WTN's Matt Murphy Show, he's limited to what he can say. However,
apparently it is a very coordinated high-tech attack, and they've used some of this stuff similar in the past, but this is the first time they've done it in such numbers, and that's all I'm free to talk about on that.
Hezbollah uses pagers to avoid Israeli detection and calls today the biggest security breach in its war with Israel. Congressman Burchett's a member of the House Oversight Committee who questioned Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle on the first attempted assassination of former President Trump in July. Burchett telling WTN's Murphy Show what he thinks about calls for more funding of the U.S. Secret Service in light of what happened on Sunday.
Out of one side of their mouth, they're saying we need more resources, and then saying we've got the best there is. So which is it? They're going to ask for more money. That's going to be the bottom line. They don't need more money. They got a cultural problem over there.
While Congressman Burchett has harsh criticism of the Secret Service, he compliments the agents who were able to spot and open fire on that suspect at Trump's golf course on Sunday. Right now in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis is working to bring that suspect, Ryan Routh, up on state attempted murder charges. DeSantis argues an attempted murder case in state court would be more straightforward and more transparent.
In my judgment, it's not in the best interest of our state or our nation to have the same federal agencies that are seeking to prosecute Donald Trump leading this investigation, especially when the most serious, straightforward offense constitutes a violation of state law, but not federal law.
Federal prosecutors have so far brought 2 firearms charges against Ryan Routh. They've suggested he could also be charged with attempting to assassinate a presidential candidate. And election 2024, officials are worried the U.S. Postal Service cannot handle the volume of mail-in ballots, so they're asking voters to be proactive to ensure ballots are counted. Well, here in Nashville, Elections Administrator Jeff Roberts telling Channel 4 what to do if you plan to request an absentee ballot.
When you receive it, go ahead and mark it and put it back in the mail to us. That way you don't have to be worried as much about did it get delayed and not arrive in time to be counted.
Already, 4,200 voters have requested absentee ballots in Davidson County, with as many as 10,000 actually voting absentee, expected anyway in the end. You have until October 29th to request an absentee ballot. The voter registration deadline is October 7th, with early voting starting October 16th. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is 8 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and I'm your friend and radio buddy. We're glad that you're with us here on this Tuesday. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. We talked about the assassination attempt in the 3 o'clock hour. Gave you the 2024 numbers. We'll do that again in the 5 o'clock hour. But we have to dip into this story, which is pretty unbelievable. I don't know if you've heard this or not. It's been in all the news. About 25, maybe 2,800 pagers that had been sent recently to Hezbollah operatives in Lebanon, the country, not the city, Lebanon, simultaneously exploded around 3:30 p.m. local time, their time. And it injured about 2,750 people, some of them critically. It killed 9 people, but it really, caused serious harm to a lot of other people. And this is a weird thing. Now, the Israelis are suspected, but they've not confirmed anything, as is their wont. They don't do that. They never confirm any operations. But this is pretty bizarre. Let me tell you what we know. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Hezbollah pagers explode in apparent attack across Lebanon. 9 people killed, 2,750 wounded, some critically. The affected pagers were from a new shipment the group received in recent days, people familiar with the matter said. A Hezbollah official said hundreds of fighters had such devices, speculating that malware may have caused the devices to explode. The official said some people felt the pagers heat up and disposed of them just before they exploded. Hezbollah said a number of pagers carried by its members exploded simultaneously at 3:30 p.m. It couldn't immediately be determined what caused the blast, which were spread out across the country in several areas where Hezbollah has a heavy presence. Hezbollah and the Lebanese government blame Israel for the attack. Both said civilians were killed, and Hezbollah threatened to retaliate. The Israeli military declined to comment. Iranian state television said the country's ambassador to Lebanon, Mojtaba Ahmadi, was injured by his pager, but was conscious and not in danger. Iran is, of course, the main supporter of Hezbollah, a U.S.-designated terrorist group that has grown into one of the world's best-armed non-state militias. This attack comes amid growing concerns that tensions along the Lebanese border are in danger of escalating as the daily exchange of cross-border fire grows in intensity and the efforts to calm regional transitions by striking a deal to pause the fighting in Gaza fail to bear fruit. Israel's government is under increasing pressure to return tens of thousands of evacuees to their homes in the north by silencing Hezbollah rockets and drones. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said Monday that dimming prospects for diplomacy were leaving military action as the only potential alternative. CBS News had some interesting facts that I didn't see elsewhere. Hundreds of handheld pagers exploded near simultaneously in parts of Lebanon and Syria on Tuesday, killing 9 and injuring 2,750 others. Among those wounded was Iran's ambassador to Lebanon. The mysterious incident came amid rising tensions between Israel and Hezbollah. Okay, blah, blah. About 3:30 p.m. local time on Tuesday, pagers started heating up and then exploding in the pockets and hands of those carrying them, particularly in southern Beirut suburbs and the Bekaa region of eastern Lebanon, where Hezbollah has a strong presence, and in Damascus, where several Hezbollah members were wounded. Lebanese security officials said the Hezbollah official spoke on condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to speak to the press. Investigators had no immediate word on how the pagers were detonated or if explosive were somehow sneaked into each pager. The U.S. says it was not aware in advance it had no involvement in the mass explosions. I can tell you the U.S. was not involved in it. The U.S. was not aware of the incident in advance. At this point, we're gathering information, said Matthew Miller over at the State Department. Lebanon's health minister, Firazi Biad, said at least 9 people were killed 2,750 wounded, 200 of them critically by the explosions. Most had injuries to the face, hand, or around the abdomen, because that's where you wish to wear a pager. I mean, for you young people who don't know what a pager is, because we don't use them much in America anymore. They still use them in the medical community, I think, but not many people carry pagers. And a pager was a device, we called them beepers, because if somebody wanted to find you, you would call this particular number that was attached to your pager, and it would go beep, 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 and then you would look at it and it would tell you who was calling and give you a number, and then you called them. This was before cell phones became everything that they are today, with text messages and all of that. So, pagers sort of fell out of use, but in Lebanon, where they're trying to pass along information undetected by the enemy, they think this is the way to do it. And the pagers can also send a message, some of them. And I guess these were those kind. The later versions all had that ability. But so the question is, as I understand it, the thing that is yet to be determined is, did somehow the Israelis, assuming it's them, it only makes sense that it would be the Israelis, did the Israelis figure out a way to send malware to those pagers so that the batteries would overheat and explode? Now, as I understand it, most of the time when a lithium battery overheats, it doesn't necessarily explode. It just catches on fire. Now, if it was getting hot beforehand, that's pretty interesting. I don't know what that means, but one way or the other, they were getting hot and then they exploded. Did they somehow figure out a way to use the existing batteries of a pager to cause an explosion via malware of some kind? That's one option. The other option is, before these pagers got sent to Hezbollah, that somehow the Israelis intercepted them and implanted small explosives inside each pager, and then figured out a way to trigger those explosions remotely at the same time. I mean, they all went off apparently at the same moment. What did it sound like? We know because this is video from a marketplace in Lebanon, and the pagers went off and exploded, and it sounded a little something like this. I mean, that's a pretty serious explosion. The person who was wearing the pager at the time was completely incapacitated, and as you can hear, in a great deal of pain. So that's what it sounded like, a pretty good explosion. I'm hoping, quite frankly, just between you and me, that the Israelis figured out a way to intercept these pagers and put explosives in there, because otherwise, folks, if it's possible to just cause the batteries to explode without an explosive being on board, then, folks, I don't begin to worry about what we have in our cell phones. We have the same kind of batteries in every cell phone in America. So let's pray that somebody hasn't figured out a way to cause these batteries to self-destruct and explode with remote. It sounds like to me there must have been an explosive, although it's not exactly clear. It's really, this is a strange one. This is very, very bizarre. Let's see, another story. Israel didn't tell the U.S. before Hezbollah pager attack. The explosions killed 2,750 injured. U.S. is not aware of this operation. The operation was approved earlier this week during security meetings with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and senior members of his cabinet and heads of the security services, a source with knowledge tells Axios. It took place a day after U.S. envoy Amos Hochstein visited Israel and warned Netanyahu of the consequences of a major escalation in Lebanon. On Tuesday, Netanyahu and Israel's Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant, spent several hours at the IDF command center in Tel Aviv, an Israeli official said. Between the lines, Axios reports the Israeli Security Cabinet decided on Monday night to update the goals of the war to include the safe return of displaced Israelis to their homes on the border with Lebanon. Israel will continue to act to implement its goal. So there's that. What else? A source with knowledge on the issue said Israel conducted the operation in order to take its fighting against Hezbollah into a new phase, while attempting to still not escalate to the level of an all-out war. The Israeli operation was aimed at undermining Hezbollah's confidence and creating a feeling in the ranks of the militia that is totally penetrated by Israeli intelligence services. The source said Israeli intelligence services assessed ahead of the operation that Hezbollah would likely retaliate with a major attack against Israel, but not if all of their fighters are disabled and in the hospital, some of them missing hands, some of them severely injured, and a number of them were killed. So it's just one of the more unusual things we've ever seen. Most of the past year, cross-border skirmishes between Israel and the Hezbollah have been the daily background music to life in Lebanon, but Tuesday's exploding pager attacks represent a level of escalation that is perhaps even greater than the assassination of the senior Hezbollah commander killed by an Israeli airstrike on a Beirut suburb in late July. Although Israel is refusing to comment, Hezbollah has said it holds Israel fully responsible. This is just the latest in a series of blows to the militant group. Hezbollah waited nearly 4 weeks to launch its response to the assassination of the leader, the Hezbollah commander, firing some 300 rockets and drones at Israel in retaliation. Now, perhaps thousands of Hezbollah militants have been injured in the pager explosions, a major blow to the Iranian-backed group. I mean, it could be a softening of the battlefield. In other words, number one, you've injured a great number of your enemy. You've killed a few of them. You've injured quite a few, some of them critically. Now you have disrupted their form of communication. They have no way to talk to one another, and it will take some time for that to be replicated and fixed. So if you wanted to cause chaos among the ranks of your enemy before you were softening the battlefield, it would be a good way to do that. One way or the other, never seen before, never experienced before. There was one Iranian case where a booby-trapped phone that clearly had explosives in it, exploded and killed an Iranian official. But we've not seen anything that's ever been pulled off to this particular scale. 20 minutes now past the hour. Fall is in the air, and that means pumpkin spice lattes and the turning leaves and cooler weather, but it's also a time to save with the folks over at Busy Bee. They have some great offers at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your Rude Pro partner. National Grandparents' Day was September 8th. They're celebrating all month by extending a free Beehive membership to the grandparents of current Beehive Club members. Now, you must currently have a Beehive Club membership already to qualify for a free Beehive membership to gift one of your grandparents, one set of grandparents, one free membership per family. They must live in the Busy Bee service area, and you will receive, of course, 3 annual tune-ups, one on cooling, one on heating, one on plumbing, a 10% discount on all repairs, priority front-of-the-line service, no overtime or holiday fees for as little as $99 to start. That's the best way to keep your system in tip-top shape all year long. So get one for you, get a free one for Grandma and Grandpa, one set of them, as long as they live in the immediate vicinity. Call Busy Bee HVAC right now at this number, 615-775-7833. That's 615-775-7833, or visit busybeehvac.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, They want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
We'll tell you what the Biden administration is saying about these exploding pagers, which Hezbollah is blaming Israel for. Coming up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Ken Weaver in the newsroom, and there in the control room is our good friend Chris Weber pushing all the blinky buttons. And I saw this today. I knew, Chris, that you would be interested in this. Donald Trump will attend the Georgia-Alabama game on September 28th.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, they'd be playing in Tuscaloosa, and it'd be the second time he's gone to that stadium. He attended the Alabama clash with LSU in 2019, which the Tide lost 46-41.
So all the Crimson Tide fans are like, no,
don't come back. Yeah. We lost last time. And then I happened to notice I'm going over to some friends' home on Saturday to watch, the Volunteers versus OU. How you feeling about that one? The last three games have been annihilations. Of course, they're not OU.
No,
but OU's not really all that great this season either, are they?
No, offense is very underwhelming. It looks like Tennessee is firing on all cylinders on both sides of the ball. Oklahoma's got a defense, finally. I was telling some folks yesterday, we're like that friend of yours that always had great cereal but no milk. And so we either have a good offense and no defense or vice versa. This time around, we have a pretty good defense. We're going to have to rely on that defense if we have a chance against the Volunteers.
Well, I mean, it seems pretty clear to me, at least in the early going, that if you're going to watch some interesting football, I might be watching the Volunteers instead of the Titans on Sunday because they seem to be, I don't know, not good.
I tell you what, that Levis, man, he just keeps making bad mistakes.
Yeah.
Bad mistakes.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about it. I mean, I had great hopes for this season. And maybe, look, we've seen before where you get 2 or 3 games in and then they finally, get rid of the yips or whatever it is they have, and they come alive. I mean, I see the parts of the Titans that show great promise. We have some talent.
Got great I think we got a good defense.
Yeah, I think we got a really good defense, and I think we've got the makings of a good team. But I mean, I have a feeling if Levis pulls another stunt like that, he may not be the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans.
Can't keep doing that. No.
Boy, that coach jumped him, man.
Boy, yes, it was. I'm not a great lip reader, but I had no problem understanding what he said. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. So I got to find me some orange to wear to this thing. On Saturday.
You have to?
Yeah, I have to wear some orange.
I'm told to all you Vol fans out there. It's not the best looking color in the world. I'm just saying.
Yeah. That's coming from a dog right there, boy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, I'm going to we're going to go out to John Rose's Fish Fry on Saturday afternoon and say hello. That's always a good event. And last time I went there, I didn't know they were going to do it. They asked me to stand up and say a few words, and I did say a few words. And my opening comments were, before I got here today, I was wondering. I said to Cabana wife, I said, "What is it that you wear to a fish fry?" And said, and so I made my best guess, but I had the wrong answer because what you wear to this fish fry is something orange. Because everybody was wearing their volunteer orange.
That's just so the grease doesn't show from all the fish you're eating.
Is that it? Yeah, that's right.
Watching football.
That's right. Well, anyway, we're in the midst of it. And look, I'm just going to say right now, Ken, I don't envy your OU Boomer Sooners.
Whew. Well, we're going to find out where we stand.
I mean, what was that last score? 71-0?
Yeah, the Vols were beating up on old Kent State.
Yeah. I mean, was it that they weren't that good? Or that the Vols are really that good?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think the Vols are really good, and Kent State was not that good, but I think the Vols are really good.
All right, sounds good.
We just got to work on figuring out how to pronounce that quarterback's name.
Yeah, don't ask me.
I don't know. I don't know this one. Do you?
Nico.
That's
Let's
all
just
I'd
leave
say.
it at that.
Nico. Okay.
Last name, I have no idea.
Yeah, wouldn't even try. And we're professional broadcasters, ladies and gentlemen. All right, 30 minutes past the hour.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and a traffic update in 5 minutes. Right now, Hezbollah is blaming Israel for exploding pagers, killing 9 and maiming thousands more today in Lebanon, calling it the largest security breach so far in its war with Israel. Now, what does the White House know about it? Karine Jean-Pierre?
If you're asking me if the U.S. was involved, no, the U.S. was not involved. If you're asking me if we were aware of the operation, we were not aware of this incident.
Israel's not saying anything. Hezbollah vowing to retaliate. Election 2024, some election officials across the nation are worried the U.S. Postal Service isn't adequately prepared to handle mail-in ballots. They're urging voters casting absentee ballots to mark them the instant you get them and then return them. Here's Nashville Elections Administrator Jeff Roberts telling Channel 4.
We've had some issues that where the ballots didn't get delivered or were sent back, questions like that, but we've always been able to call the Postal Service to try to figure out what happened.
Already 4,200 voters in Davidson County have requested absentee ballots. The deadline is October 29th. Money News, Derry Albinger.
Stocks closed mixed a day before that long-awaited decision from the Fed. The Dow fell 16 points a day after a record close. The S&P eked out a positive finish at the close, up 1 point, while the NASDAQ rose 36 points. This is pretty much the opposite of Monday's finish. Investors are waiting on the end of the Federal Reserve's latest meeting, where Chair Jerome Powell is expected to announce that the central bank is going to cut a key interest rate for the first time in more than 2 decades. What we're waiting to learn, though, is if it's going to be the usual 0.25% cut, or if the Fed's going to go big and call for a 0.5% cut. We shopped a little more last month, and that provided a boost to the economy as the central bank considers how much to cut that rate. The Commerce Department says retail sales sales ticked up 0.1% from July to August after hitting a 1.5-year high the month before.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Say, are your retirement assets structured to minimize taxes? Might be hard to believe, but many hardworking Americans just like you could be overpaying on taxes in retirement. You could be overtaxed on your IRA, your 401k, and any other tax-deferred retirement accounts. Beacon Capital Management here to give you peace of mind with the threat of massive tax increases just around the corner. Your nest egg could be in trouble unless you take advantage of defensive tax-saving strategies now. Defend your hard-earned retirement savings by scheduling a free retirement tax reduction analysis. No cost, no pressure, no obligation. If you've saved more than $250,000 for retirement, don't wait any longer. Schedule your free retirement tax reduction analysis from Beacon. Just call this number, 615-488-9303, or visit askbeaconnow.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionality, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Almost 38 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Kamala Harris, boy, this thing. I mean, I'm telling you, I could do 2-3 hours on what I thought about this thing. Kamala Harris goes and speaks to the NABJ, which is the National Association of Black Journalists. Remember the kind of welcome that Donald Trump got during all of that? You know how badly he was treated by the journalist at the National Association of Black Journalists? Well, she got, she was just, they slobbered all over her. It was really something. First thing that I will get this out of the way, then I'm going to turn to what I thought was the most significant part of what she had to say. And believe me, if you're a believer in the Second Amendment and a strong believer in your Second Amendment rights, you want to hear this. Okay, but first, believe it or not, after the assassination attempt on Sunday at the golf course, Kamala Harris says that she did indeed reach out to Donald Trump.
Have you spoken to him?
I have.
And earlier today, I assume?
Yes.
How'd that go? You want to give us some intel?
Sure. I checked on him to see if he was okay.
Yeah.
And I told him what I have said publicly. There's no place for political violence in our country. I am in this election and in this race for many reasons, including to fight for our democracy. And in a democracy, there is no place for political violence. We can and should have healthy debates and discussion and disagreements, but not resort to violence to resolve those issues.
Meanwhile, the Trump campaign has come out pretty hard against the Democrats, saying that, this guy, is probably, he's sort of revved up. He's got a screw loose to begin with, and he was revved up by some of the inflammatory, violent rhetoric used against President Trump by Kamala Harris and others. Kamala Harris has said, Trump is a threat to our democracy and fundamental freedoms. It's on us to recognize the threat that Trump poses, she said. She said, does one of us have to come out alive? That was when she made an appearance on the Ellen show back in the day. Here's what she said.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
There's that cackle. Where's that gone? I wonder. We don't get that anymore. So, she's calling to say, hey, just checking up on you, Donald, make sure everything's all good and fine. But the Trump campaign, I'm sure he was very polite to her, but I think the Trump campaign is right that these attacks are people who get revved up on the rhetoric of the left. From Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, and I mean right on down the line. And as Rand Paul pointed out, the continual drumbeat of craziness that comes from MSNBC and other places. All right, but that's not the most important thing that she said. How many times have we heard Kamala Harris say in recent days that she's not out to grab your guns? She is a strong defender of your Second Amendment rights, right? Well, she was asked about that at the National Association of Black Journalists gathering, and here is some of what she said. This runs for about 5 minutes, but it is interesting. I want you to listen to it. Here we go.
And we're not trying to take anybody's guns away from them, but we do need an assault weapons ban.
Hold it just a second. Well, what? So we're not trying to take anybody's guns away from them, but we do need an assault weapons ban. You see, the thing is, she considers that AR-15 you got in your gun safe to be a weapon, an assault weapon, and she doesn't want it to be there. She's actually said in the past she thinks that you should be required by the government to turn it in, and they would pay you a small amount for it. Yeah, right. Let's see how that goes over. But let's start that again, okay? I mean, immediately, we're not out to take your guns, but if there's a qualifier there, then already she's not a strong defender of the Second Amendment.
And we're not trying to take anybody's guns away from them, but we do need an assault weapons ban. Assault weapons are designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly and have no place I'm going to get to it.
Yes.
And have no place on the streets of a civil society. We need universal background checks. which, to your point about handguns, is about saying that it is just reasonable to want reasonable gun safety laws that say we should do background checks, that we ought to know. It's just reasonable. You might want to know before someone can buy a lethal weapon if they've been found by a court to be a danger to themselves or others. You might just want to know.
And respectfully, we do understand that.
But you're asking about...
I'm asking specifically about handguns, because many of those handguns aren't purchased in places.
Universal background checks apply to handguns.
Yes.
They do.
But in many instances, those handguns aren't even bought lawfully. Yes.
Which is why I also have been very adamant for years. In fact, I myself protested at a gun show probably 10, 15 years ago about the gun show loophole and why we need to close that. Because what ends up happening is that gun shows at flea markets, gun dealers are not, under existing law in the past, required to register their sales. And so you are exactly right that a lot of homicides, for example, a good number of them, I don't have the statistic in front of my mind, are committed with illegally purchased guns. And that's why we need to address each entry point in the issue, including universal background checks, closing the gun show loophole, and what we need to do as a general matter to focus not only on reaction to crime, but prevention of crime. So you're raising a very important issue that has many facets, including what we need to do in terms of reasonable gun safety laws and what we need to do around crime prevention, what we need to do around crime deterrence. But listen, I have personally prosecuted homicide cases. I have held the hands of mothers who have come to me crying, who have said, I only want to talk to Kamala, because they knew when they sat down, I would treat them with the dignity and respect that they were entitled and due.
Do you see how they're letting her ramble on and on and on, topic to topic to topic, allowing her to completely control the interview? Do you remember how it went with Trump? It wasn't like that at all.
About the loss of their child, often their son, to gun violence and the need to take it seriously. And we must take it seriously. In every way, understanding it's not just about a soundbite. It's about a comprehensive approach that deals with the tragedy of, to your point, everyday gun violence in America. It's real. It has had a profound impact in terms of trauma that for the most part has gone undiagnosed and untreated. The trauma that exists in communities around the violence of losing their children, losing a brother, losing a father, an uncle, all of that must be addressed, and we have to have a holistic response to it.
Are there things we haven't thought about yet? Because every time we bring up this issue of gun violence, universal background checks comes up and a ban on assault weapons. Are there other solutions that you're also thinking about that will get at this issue?
Absolutely. For example, part of what we did as vice president and with the president, we were able to pass the first meaningful gun safety legislation in 30 years. And part of what that involved was millions and millions of dollars to put more mental health counselors in public schools. Right? Because we know that there is an aspect of this that is about treating the trauma and dealing with it at its source before it ends up manifesting itself in a problem. There is the work that we need to do that is about putting resources into communities around violence prevention. I've been a big advocate of that for years, which includes what we need to do around putting resources into community-based intervention that is not just requiring on the good people in the community to volunteer to do the intervention, but actually paying people to do it because it's a full-time job. It's about understanding what we need to do to, again, understand that, to your point, we have to have a holistic response to this issue and prioritize it instead of reacting to the tragedy that sadly they are too predictable. Let's all agree, enough of that. There are very few solutions that we haven't thought of. We need to put the resources into them.
Madam Vice President.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's about 5 minutes of her talking about how she's going to take your guns, but don't worry, because they're not going to take your guns. I mean, unbelievable. And by the way, just the whole tenor of the thing, very respectful. I think this is the soundbite from when Trump was at the NABJ.
I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money, they were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense.
I mean, he handled it about as beautifully as it could be handled, but to just compare and contrast the way that Trump was treated versus the way that Kamala was treated in front of the same organization. 50 minutes now past the hour. Another day, down another pound. That's been my good news of late every time I step on the scales in the morning, and it's because of the folks at Restoration Wellness Med Spa in Wilson County. They are the leader in weight loss management in Wilson County. Up in Lebanon, honestly, just right off the interstates. Easy to get to. Why don't you call the Restoration Wellness team today at 615-470-8124 or visit them at their website, restorationwellnessmedspa.com, to book a consultation today. You're going to meet my friends Carly and Jamie, and they will take great care of you like you're one of their own. You can be part of the more than 1,000 patients who've already seen life-changing results from the weight loss management program there. Weight loss can increase your energy levels, improve your quality of sleep, enhance your overall health. These are customized treatments. You're going to be asked about your unique needs, lifestyle, and goals. So if your goal is to lose stubborn body fat or maybe just improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness has a solution for you. Learn about the newest technology in weight loss management. Just go to restorationwellnessmedspa.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
More school threats arrests here in Middle Tennessee. New details about the pager explosions, which Hezbollah is blaming Israel for. Governor Ron DeSantis says you can't trust the feds to properly investigate what the FBI says was a second assassination attempt on President Trump, at least an apparent one, according to the FBI. That's coming up at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, 57 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, bringing you news and information all the way till 7 o'clock tonight. Look, we're going to be talking in just a few moments about the assassination attempt on Donald Trump this weekend. There is a great deal of consternation on Capitol Hill. Apparently, even Democrat senators are complaining they can't get information about what happened at the earlier assassination attempt or this assassination attempt from the Department of Homeland Security. That's just the beginning of our coverage of that event, so come right back. We'll be back with more information after the news at the top of the hour. Grace Point Healthcare provides affordable, convenient, and comprehensive medicine. Basic smart care plans, and this is something you need to look into. They start at just $69 a month. It includes free office visits and free basic labs and diagnostic tests for the full year. That's right. At Grace Point, you're usually seen the same or next day, and there are no long wait times in the waiting room. Grace Point is your primary provider that treats the entire family from newborns to seniors. Now, here's something. When you get to be a certain age, your hormones begin to fluctuate, and they can take a toll on your lifestyle. Grace Point provides comprehensive hormone testing and treatment for both men and women. Grace Point is a military veteran-owned practice located in the heart of Franklin. Call this number, 615-599-6868 to schedule your next medical appointment. Grace Point Healthcare, modern medicine delivered the old-fashioned way.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Five o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes, and right now in Middle Tennessee, school threats. Channel 4 says a sixth grader at DuPont Tyler Middle School in Hermitage was arrested today for making threats against the school. The 11-year-old charged with making a threat of mass violence. Offenders, authorities say, no matter the age, will be arrested and face expulsion under Tennessee's zero-tolerance policy on school threats. Rutherford County officials detailed their investigations into school threats they say are causing unnecessary panic. More than a dozen threats floated around since the shooting in Georgia. Channel 4's Lydia Fielder says 2 kids have been arrested for those false reports there in Rutherford County.
The Rutherford County Sheriff says none of their investigations showed evidence that anyone was legitimately going to carry out an actual threat. In fact, the sheriff says they figured out most of the students are just reposting old social media threats or copying posts from threats in either other districts or even other states. The sheriff says students passing along these posts so quickly really make it difficult and time-consuming for officers to figure out where they came from in the first place. The Rutherford County Sheriff says they do have a new campaign, Report It, Don't Post It, that they hope will teach students to report the supposed threat to police or teachers rather than repost it or text it to other people.
Hezbollah is blaming Israel for the widespread attack that triggered pagers to explode across the country today. Here's Martha Raddatz in Tel Aviv.
These pagers, they all exploded at the same time. Reports are that there was a beeping sound, then they heated up, and then they exploded. Of course, there were people around as well, probably, and that is because so many were wounded. At least 9 were killed, including a child.
Hezbollah-run media is claiming a child was killed. Lebanon is blaming the Israelis, and the Israelis are not commenting about any of this. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland today making his first on-camera remarks on Sunday's events, which the FBI says was an apparent second assassination attempt on former President Trump. Garland saying the entire Justice Department is working, quote, tirelessly to determine accountability in this matter. But Governor Ron DeSantis says that's a conflict of interest, says he can't trust it. So he's moving to have Ryan Routh brought up on state attempted murder charges.
In my judgment, it's not in the best interest of our state or our nation to have the same federal agencies that are seeking to prosecute Donald Trump leading this investigation, especially when the most serious, straightforward offense constitutes a violation of state law, but not federal law.
Sean Diddy Combs' case, the music mogul entering not guilty pleas today, and the judge denied him bail, which means he stays behind bars until trial. All of this after the unsealing of an indictment for racketeering and sex trafficking charges.
The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct.
As U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Damian Williams. And the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Good afternoon, everybody. 7 past the hour of 5 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7. Hour number 3 of the drive now underway. Good looking day out there, and even 80 degrees. Very pleasant. Hope you're having a good day. Hope you got home, or you're headed home in a good fashion. You're not having too many troubles with the traffic, and so that when you get there, just kick back. I'll give you some information, and you can arrive at home, and you'll be up to speed on all events that you need to know about. We're going to do some more conversation about the assassination attempt. And in the next few minutes, and about 13, 14 minutes from now, we'll come back and we'll actually take your phone calls. What do you think about this thing? And what is your concern? What is your take on it all? But let's start out with the latest information. First of all, Caroline Leavitt, who speaks on behalf of the Trump campaign, says that, the reason these things are happening is because the Democrats have really, ramped up their rhetoric against Trump in a way that is not healthy in a campaign.
He is the most threatened man in the world right now. President Trump absolutely needs more protection. I think all Americans would agree with that. And again, it's up to the Democrats. The onus is on them to turn down the rhetoric in this country. They are just repeating that talking point because they have nothing else to run on in this election, and it's shameful.
And then they released a whole bunch of stuff that people had said over on the other side of the equation, the Democrats, talking about, he's a threat to our society. He's a threat to democracy. And they go on and on and on. And it's Kamala Harris. It's Joe Biden. It's Tim Walz. It's everybody on the left. Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton. Here's what Hillary Clinton had to say less than 24 hours after the assassination attempt.
We can't go back and give this very dangerous man another chance to do harm to our country and the world.
Listen, there's people out there that have a screw loose. There's just no doubt about it. And so, the question becomes then exactly, how do you then fight this? It's hard to when people are out there calling you a threat to democracy and a dangerous man. Rand Paul, senator from Kentucky, says the Democrats need to tone down the rhetoric.
Without question, I blame CNN, MSNBC, and all the other left-wing outlets for promoting this idea that Donald Trump is going to end elections, that democracy is being threatened, that it's going to be the end of the world. They've made it so dire and they've so misinformed the public about Donald Trump's positions that every crazy person in the country now is ginned up. So CNN, MSNBC, the Democrats in general need to tone it down because they are inciting this anger that is coming forth through disturbed people or violent people or otherwise, but they need to tone down their rhetoric without question. They're not saying Donald Trump's policies are wrong. They are saying he is evil, that he will ruin the country, there'll be no more voting, that somehow certain types of people won't get to vote. None of that is true. It's all a lie. All the things they said about collusion with Russia were a lie. They can't handle a discussion, a simple civil discussion over policy, but they need to stop it. We've had 2 shooting episodes in about a 2-month period. I fear for what comes forward. It's got to stop, and this is coming from the left. What do? They immediately blame him for talking about immigration problems. Somehow it's his fault for bringing up an issue that people are unhappy about. No, it's about the left inciting people to say, you know what, you may not be able to solve this with an election because he's so dangerous, because he's the American Hitler. They say it over and over again, and they are responsible for ratcheting this up to violence.
I think he's right about that. And there is some responsibility for the language that you use. And the Democrats have been, just horrible about the things they've said about Donald Trump. If our guys said anything about them the way they talked about us, they would be screaming bloody murder. Paul Rand went on to say he's very concerned about the Secret Service. And, something that they hope that the Secret Service can get their act together, but real concerns about the Secret Service and their ability to protect Trump.
And I saw someone from law enforcement say, had he been president, this wouldn't happen. Well, I think he needs to be treated the same as the acting president. We have the resources. It's not a lack of money. It's a lack of oversight and people doing their job.
Now, isn't that interesting? It's not a lack of money, because there's a lot of people right now calling to give more money to the Secret Service, and they may need additional resources. They need to hire some people, but I mean, it really is about taking the money that you have and using it effectively, and are they doing that? Rand Paul has some concerns that perhaps they are not.
Someone should not be able to sit with a weapon for 12 hours and not be detected. That's unacceptable. But in the first assassination attempt, they had a suspicious individual for 90 minutes and didn't stop the proceeding. They also had a general broadcast of man on a roof at 6:08, and the gunshots were at 6:11. They had 3 minutes to have President Trump taken from the stage, and it didn't happen. This isn't about throwing money at the problem. It's about human error, but it's also about responsibility. I like people in law enforcement. I'm generally in favor of them. They have a hard job. But if you're in charge of security and you have failures such as not guarding a roof, not having counter snipers on the roof, it's an inexcusable error. You can't be in that position anymore. You can't be in charge of the next person that has to be protected because you've shown yourself incapable of being in charge of security.
Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana.
We need answers more than the Secret Service needs money. In the real world, when you don't do your job, you get fired. In the world of Washington, when you don't do your job, you get more money because obviously you need it.
I mean, do they have enough money, or are they just not using their resources well? Have things started to fall through the crack? Again, I think that as I look at the Secret Service and I know the organization somewhat from the years that I worked in Washington and watched them up close and personal, it sounds like something has changed. And that thing that has changed, I think, is the Biden administration's absolute insistence that every branch of government go through this ridiculous DEI process. I think in their hurry to meet some DEI quotas, that they have really weakened the organization and have let some people in who aren't very good. Certainly that seems now to be the major story coming out of Butler, Pennsylvania, and more questions being asked about that. Here is Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. He's also among those who doesn't want to just throw money at the problem.
We don't want to just throw more money at a broken system. We're looking at all aspects of it, and we'll make the right determination.
So you've got two different organizations on Capitol, one on the Senate side, one on the House side, two rather ad hoc committees that have been put together to look into the failures of the Secret Service and what went wrong, and to look at it in great detail. One is in the House of Representatives, and our own Mark Green serves on that committee. Over in the Senate, it is being led by, among others, Richard Blumenthal, a Democrat, because the Democrats control the Senate, a Democrat from Connecticut. But listen to this Democrat speak. He is apoplectic. And this is not the first time he said this. He's very angry. He's apoplectic about the fact that he can't get the answers he needs from the Department of Homeland Security. This is a noisy hallway, but listen carefully to what he has to say.
I am reaching a point of total outrage because the response from the Department of Homeland Security has been totally lacking. In fact, I think it's tantamount to stonewalling in many respects. The Department of Homeland Security has to be more forthcoming, not only to me, but to the American people, and it has to do it quickly, or it will fuel the conspiracy theories that are so dangerous to our democracy, as well as undermining its own credibility.
What are they not providing you?
Documents, witnesses, other evidence that is important. They are, in effect, saying no to the requests for information from a legitimate inquiry that is really important to their service to the American people.
Are you going to subpoena for these records?
If necessary, I'll certainly support a subpoena. It takes very little drafting to do a subpoena here, and even less time. I know how to do subpoenas. I'm very willing and able to use the subpoena process if necessary to get information from the Department of Homeland Security. And we have told them repeatedly about our frustration. I'm deeply dissatisfied and disappointed.
And the other day in the hallway, he said that, that he thinks that Americans are going to be shocked and appalled. The words that he used, shocked and appalled at what went wrong in Butler. And that was, of course, before we had the incident in West Palm Beach. Look, here is the big question that I think many people have about this particular thing that happened on Sunday. Was it a conspiracy? Or was it just a guy making a lucky guess about where Donald Trump might be on a Sunday afternoon? Let me lay out for you where I am on it. Now, I'll be honest with you, we will get an answer to this because the Secret Service has the phone, FBI has the phone. They can now go back and they can identify where this guy was. Now, we know, the only information that we know for sure is that he was in the vicinity of that golf course, near the spot where he was, scoping out the golf course for about 12 hours. You know how they do that? Well, they can ping the cell phone. They can triangulate. If you've got somebody's cell phone number, you can find out where that cell phone is within about 30 feet. It's that accurate. And so they knew that he was there for about 12 hours. He arrived about 2 o'clock in the morning, 1:59. Stayed till 1:31 when he got shot at and he ran. You know the rest of the story. Then the question I look at is, well, when did anybody know that Donald Trump was going to play golf? Because they said it wasn't on his regular schedule, and that's true. It was an off-the-record event, which means that they're not going to tell anybody in advance that he's going. That's part of the security protocol. If you don't know he's coming, then how can you know? That's part of it. But I'm getting the impression, and again, this needs to be drilled down on, that indeed he didn't decide to play golf until he woke up Sunday morning. And here's my basis for that. Sean Hannity is having breakfast early in the morning there in the same area with one of the men who actually ended up playing golf with Donald Trump, was there when he got the phone call, said, hey, let's go play a round of golf. You want to go play a round of golf? And he said, yeah, I'll be there. And then they even invited Sean Hannity, and he declined. He said he had other things to do. Thank you for the invitation. But, it seems like Trump woke up on Sunday morning and then decided he was going to go play golf. Not an uncommon thing when you own a golf course. I mean, it's your golf course. You can go any damn time you want to go, right? They're not going to tell you no. So he doesn't need to think about it way in advance. He got up, weather looked nice. Let's go play a round of golf. Let me see who I can get together. That sounds the way it was, very spontaneous and last minute. Well, then it means that if that is true, and I believe that that's eventually what we're going to find out, then there was no way the information could have been given to him the night before when he was parked over there next to the golf course, apparently living out of the back of his car. If Trump made the decision in the morning, then and you're saying, well, he was there the night before, he must have gotten advance notice. How could he have had advance notice when Trump didn't even know when he went to bed that night that he was going to get up the next morning and play golf? Maybe there was more advance warning to the Secret Service. Yeah, we might want to go play golf tomorrow. I don't know. We will find out, I think, over time. But it's beginning to sound like to me that it wasn't something that could have potentially made its way to this hapless idiot who was living out of the back of his car. Let me just also say one thing. Secret Service was well aware of that gap where he was. It was well known to them because they'd had a problem in the past, I understand, with photographers who would show up there to take pictures of Trump on the golf course. I myself, as a reporter, have been witness to having camera crews go out and finding some place where they could have a vantage point of the golf course to take pictures of former presidents playing golf. It was, here's what Bush did today. Here's what Clinton did today. It happened all the time. So the Secret Service knew that they had seen photographers there. There's absolutely a place they were going to check. And this golf course was well known to them. So it wasn't like, they got up and I think the president said, I want to go play golf. And they said, okay, sir, we'll figure out a way to make that happen. So that's my take on it. What do you think about all this? 615-737-9986. Take your calls in just a moment. Right now it's 22 past the hour. Stoltz Co., if you're in the market for a pole barn, the two brothers that run Stoltz Co. are two guys you need to talk to, known for exceptional quality, craftsmanship, and fair prices. They can build you a new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind. That is the Stoltz Co. difference. And they have a question for you. Do you own land? You doing anything with it? Well, why don't you do something with that land? Why don't you invest in it by building on your land? Just do me a favor. Go to the Stoltz Co. website. Here it is, STOLTZCO.com, StoltzCo.com. Take a look at the things that they've done for other people. Look at the barn dominiums. Look at other pole barns. Look at garages. They can build you an equestrian space. They can build you an event space. Maybe it's a place you build where you go out and hang out on the weekends and to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city. One way or the other, you're going to get a lot of great ideas about things you can do with your land. Then give them a call at 615-622-5992. Again, find out more by going to their website, StoltzCo.com. That's StoltzCo.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
New details about the massive, sophisticated attack on the terrorist group Hezbollah today, and a new campaign launched to combat school threats here in Middle Tennessee. We'll tell you about it at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, so one of the big questions about the event on Sunday at the golf course was, did the guy get tipped off? Some people think that there's a sign of a conspiracy. Nothing has come up yet that lends itself to that, but a lot of people say, well, that sort of makes sense. How could he have known to be there? And some of our members nutrition super text line folks have said, well, you know what, he might have been checking out that golf course every weekend for a lot of weekends. We just don't know. One way or the other, I'd like to know your thoughts about it. Jerry in Nashville, you're on with Brian on the drive. Jerry, your thought?
Oh, I don't think it's got anything to do with DEI or anything like that. I think his It was more of the management. But I think they're evidently starting to get their stuff together with the one officer open firing on the position. But I've been a police officer here in Nashville for a long time, and I remember one time when Al Gore decided he was going to do a little jog through one of the metro parks. We had outside perimeter, Secret Service had inside perimeter, and we had radios and said that if somebody breaches your perimeter, just let us know. And so sure enough, somebody thought he was important enough to go around with the vice president and bust our perimeter. And as the two Secret Service guys approached him from like a diagonal position on each side, the whole conversation they had with him, he had a red dot. The guy who breached the perimeter had a red dot on his forehead.
Yeah. Yeah, so, they listen, I think they do have these scenarios because they know that you can't always predict what a president's going to do. There's got to be some things you could do very quickly. And part of it is they consider an off-the-record event, I know this for sure, to be a bit more secure because generally it's not on the public calendar. Jerry, thank you. Great information. Adam in Nashville, your thought about it, my friend?
Hey, well, I was thinking that Trump's schedule of his rallies were public, I'm sure, and maybe he kind of knows that Trump unwinds on Sundays and at Mar-a-Lago and was playing the odds that he decided to play golf.
I think it was. I think that's probably what we're going to find out here. That's my guess, because it's not like the first time he played that golf course on a Sunday afternoon. He's done that a lot. And I think that's probably what we're going to find. I leave myself open to being wrong, but that seems the way it's sort of shaping up now. Ricky, out on the road, give us your thought real quick.
Brian, I don't know about that. I don't think we need to rush to judgment, but if you don't mind, I would like to interject another thought about the president's approach in his appearances. I think what he needs to do is to let them know that he is a threat to democracy because we are a constitutional republic. I hear Republicans as well as Democrats say democracy, 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 and they need to be saying we are a republic.
Yeah, that's a valid point, Ricky. A little off topic, but I'll allow it this time. Thank you much for the call, man. It's 5:30. Coming up in just a few moments, the Three Amigos.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes, and right now the Middle East on edge as fears grow of a major war breaking out between Israel and Hezbollah. A war bigger than the one that's already raging. Here's Jordana Miller.
Just after 3:30 p.m. local time, thousands of pagers simultaneously exploding across Lebanon, on the streets, in stores, and in cars. An attack apparently aimed at Hezbollah. Their members making up the vast majority of the 2,800 injured and 9 killed. Hezbollah blaming Israel and vowing a painful response. Lebanon's government calling it an Israeli crime. But officials in Israel are not commenting on the attack.
It's seen as a major blow to Hezbollah, who resorted to low-tech pagers instead of cell phones so they could evade Israeli surveillance. Here in Middle Tennessee, Rutherford County Schools Director Jimmy Sullivan says the district has experienced more than 20 threats against schools in the past 2 weeks. 2 of them led to the arrest of students. Most of the threats were amplified by students spreading rumors of the threats online instead of simply reporting them to authorities.
When there's a threat or a false rumor, they cause significant disturbances in learning, are intolerable, and have serious repercussions. These actions are dangerous and harmful. They cause parents to worry and upset students within the school community.
Now, the Rutherford County Sheriff's Department says if a student spreads a rumor about a threat, they could be held partially responsible. So the department's launching a new campaign called Report It, Don't Repost It, to help law enforcement identify the real threat faster. Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs being held without bond in a federal facility overnight after pleading not guilty to sex trafficking and racketeering charges.
There are 3 charges in this indictment that was unsealed here today. Racketeering, conspiracy, putting Sean Diddy Combs like a mob boss at the top of what prosecutors called a criminal enterprise to abuse, coerce, and threaten women into freak-offs, as they were called, these extended sexual performances.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
All right, let me tell you about the folks over at Nashville Gold and Coin. Did you know that gold is up 78% over the last 5 years and silver is up 99% in that same time period? Meanwhile, the U.S. dollar has lost 25% of its value since 2020. Government-induced inflation is stealing your wealth, and it doesn't seem that Washington has any plans to stop. Gold and other precious metals are a great shield against that inflation theft. I mean, you know, it's election year. Politicians will tell you anything, but they can't help themselves. And that's why, no matter who is in office, gold protects you from the D.C. spending sprees. Now, where do you go to get that protection? Well, you want to reach out to my friends Kyle and Hannah, good people at Nashville Gold and Coin. They'll take care of you and keep you well informed on any precious metals opportunities that arise. Please act now and get your shield against out-of-control government spending. Go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com and set up your appointment today.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
There it is. 37 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Time for the three amigos who are Ken Weaver in the newsroom. Hello, Ken.
Good afternoon, boys.
You got it right today. Afternoon. That's right. I'm so proud.
It took a while.
It took a while. And there's Chris Weber in the control room. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
And I am your friend and radio buddy, and together we make up the three amigos. Our job is to talk about this, that, and the other. As I like to call it, TTO. That's a throwback to one of my first jobs in broadcasting. I was the morning news guy when I was only 19 years old on this radio station in my hometown. Happened to be the number one radio station in town.
All right.
It was a top 40 radio station, and we actually did news.
Yeah.
Top 40 stations, there's no such thing as a top 40 station anymore, but, music stations don't really do news anymore.
Nope.
But we did it back then, local, live news, and it was very important. And the morning show was called TTO, this, that, and the other. And they would talk about, it was basically 3 hours of the three amigos.
Of this. Yeah.
It was what we're doing now.
That sounds like fun.
With a little news mixed in.
That's right. And so, it does. We look for weird stories. Sometimes we find them. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we just talk about things going on. So I need to bring people up to date on my very problematic yellow jacket problem.
I was going to ask about that.
As you know, if you were with us yesterday, I got into big trouble with Cabana Wife because she went out early, still dark outside. She gets up really early. I don't know why. Gets up early, goes out, and she's watering all her plants, and she gets stung while she's out there watering plants by a yellow jacket, we believe. We believe it was a yellow jacket. And this, of course, put me in great trouble because, number one, she's a little allergic to those kind of things, so we have to watch that. Number two, I had been told to take care of that problem maybe a month or two before. Maybe a month or two before, and I just had forgotten about it. And as I so aptly put it yesterday, and Chris, best line ever. I said, I have a lot on my plate. And Chris said, well, tonight you're not going to have anything on your plate. And so I apologized about 4 more times when she got home, and I think we're through it. I got some wasp spray and some hornet and bee spray, and I just sprayed the crap out of that ground nest that they had going over there. And today I see 1 or 2 surviving yellow jackets, but by and large, most of them suckers are dead.
Good.
Yeah, that's good. Hopefully you got them all. If not, they're just regrouping.
Yeah.
And they're going to be mad the second time around. I think, and thank you for everybody for sending me ideas about how to kill. Some of you people are really demented. How to kill the yellow jackets. But we didn't have to put any gasoline in the ground.
It comes out of the ground. It can go back in.
Well, I told Cabana Wife, some people say we need to pour gasoline down that hole. And she said, it'll kill my hostas.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I guess
it'd kill a lot more than those yellow jackets.
Yeah, that's right. So
take care of it.
But we have it under control.
Well, that's good.
How's Cabana Wife's hand?
I haven't heard from her today. She's been at work, and I'm sure I'll hear about it tonight. But it did. I'll have to say, it got her on her ring finger, on her left hand, and thank goodness she's right-handed. But that finger was swollen and red.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. They are painful, man. Those yellow jackets. I don't know what it is, but they're much more painful. I've been stung by them a couple of times. I've been stung by many wasps, but they are more painful than a wasp to me.
I saw something yesterday that said yellow jackets not only can sting you, but they actually will bite you as well.
They can do that too. Yes, they're like a hornet.
Never heard of that.
They're like a miniature hornet.
Yeah,
because a hornet will bite too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Before we move on, reminder tonight. The supermoon.
Oh, yes, sir.
And the partial eclipse of the moon happens, I think, if last I looked, 9:44 our time.
Right.
All right.
That's when it starts. Good. And not totality, but it will take a bite out of the moon, and that will make the supermoon, full moon, look rusty in color. So it's a supermoon, it's a partial eclipse, and they call it a blood moon because it takes on sort of a rusty color. You get all three
And from what I understand, I think Saturn is going to be visible.
Is that right?
Yeah, off to either the left or the right of it. So that might be something to look for too. A little brighter than usual star.
Okay. So 9:44 is when that partial eclipse, I believe, begins.
And now I understand the Starship Enterprise will be going between Saturn and the Moon during this time.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's fictional.
That's fantasy. Yes.
Fantasy.
Yeah, never mind.
So what do you guys got?
Well, I'll start today if that's all right.
Go ahead, Brother Chris.
Go ahead.
Have you guys heard of these and seen these competitions? They do them a lot at college football games where they get a student out on the field and try to kick field goals to win cash or prizes.
Sort of like the thing about taking a half-court shot at a basketball game.
Very similar to that. Well, a lot of schools do it, and this particular story comes from Purdue University. And this was a couple of weeks ago. I guess it was during week 1 of football action. But a young student named Zachary Spangler became the second student ever to complete the Kicks for Cash competition at Purdue. And by doing so, he kicked a 20, 30, and 40-yard field goal within a certain time frame. Like I guess they put a clock up and you have to kick all 3 of these field goals. He completed it, or so he thought, and won a 2-year lease on a brand new car. So he's very excited about that. Well, the following Thursday, Mr. Spangler received an email from the area automotive dealer that was putting up this 2-year lease. And I'll just read what the email says. It's from the gentleman's last name is Rohrman, which was the name of the auto group, Rohrman Auto. So I guess he's an owner or somehow affiliated. But it says, "Good afternoon, Zach. Unfortunately, I have to break some bad news on the results of your experience that according to the further video review, you actually didn't beat the clock. I wanted to attach the video so you are able to see what us and our insurance company are reviewing. Sorry to be the one to break the bad news, man. Amazing effort. Have a great semester and boiler up."
That's not right.
So he attaches the video. The kid says his initial reaction to reading that email was, well, that's... He says that the video apparently shows the clock expiring just before his foot connects with the ball. And he says he's not upset about losing the lease. He's got a car that runs fine and all that stuff. He's just mad that they say his 40-yard field goal didn't count. He says that his foot came off of it 0.05 of a second late. And that's why they're denying him the victory and the completion of this big event here in the 2-year lease and all that sort of thing. And it says the video sent him shows 4 angles of him kicking with a 30-second timer at the bottom. The holder places the ball with about 1.5 seconds left on the timer, but his foot didn't leave, or the ball did not leave his foot until after the clock had hit 0. So by 0.05 of a second, they are denying this young man a 2-year lease. And this is the big point that I think, and I agree with him. He says, they announced at the game that I won, and then it was posted on Twitter that I won. So there are 58,000 people at the game. The Twitter post was seen by 15,000. So we've got almost 75,000 people who think that he won a brand new car. And they'll never know that he didn't. They'll never go out and publicly say that he didn't. And they'll never say that, hey, this kid lost because he kicked the ball 0.05 of a second.
So they got all the publicity of having done it. Yeah. Oh, look, here's our little contest and somebody won. Yep. And they did, and that was all the publicity. But at the end of the day, behind the scenes, they just took it back from him.
Yep. That's right. They'd send him an email and say, "Oh, sorry, you didn't win."
Well, it sounds when he said insurance company, I said, there you go.
Yeah, that's
apparently in order to do this, you insure, and then somebody gives you can insure anything, So they insure that if he makes it, which he's not likely to make, they probably the odds are against you.
Oh yeah.
Then
sure.
But if he makes it, then you're going to pay. The insurance company has to pay.
Yep.
So the insurance company had more than a vested interest. I bet if it was just the dealership, he would have gone ahead and done it.
0.05 of a second. And he makes a good point. He says that would count if you're 12 years old up to 38, because it's not about when your foot hits the ball, it's when the ball is snapped. The clock, like in a normal football game, right?
That's
the ball was snapped before the clock hit 0, so the ball was was being held, ready to be kicked.
Right.
It's a live ball.
Right.
And, of course, the last line of the story, Rohrman Automotive could not be reached for comment. Surprise, surprise.
They were
Yeah,
closed
surprise.
that day.
That's not right at all.
Maybe they'll make good on it after this story gets traction. I don't know.
You know, sometimes they do come around. I mean, you know, a dealership, what is it going to cost them to do a lease?
Yeah, a couple years. Let this kid
Yeah.
have a car.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got all of that publicity.
Yeah.
Just give him the car, man.
Yeah, I think so. All right, what do you got there for me, Ken?
All right, well, we've heard about, how coffee is actually good for your health. Well, we've got yet another study.
Now, hold on. This is one of those things where, every so often, about once a month or so, you see a story. Coffee's good for your health. Coffee's bad for your health. Coffee's good for your health. Coffee's bad for your health. So now it's good for your health again?
Well, yeah, and this one is using very big words.
Okay, go ahead.
It says moderate amounts of caffeine intake, defined as about 3 cups of coffee or tea a day, were associated with a lower risk of developing cardiometabolic multimorbidity. In other words, heart disease.
Heart disease, right.
But for some reason, this researcher, he's out of China, he wants to use cardiometabolic multimorbidity.
Okay,
Makes him sound smarter.
so you got to drink 3 cups of coffee to get the benefit?
Yeah, and here's the benefits, okay? According to this study, moderate caffeine consumers had a reduced risk of new onset cardiometabolic multimorbidity. It was reduced by 48% with 3 cups a day, or 40% if they had 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine daily. Now, just like I don't necessarily understand cardiometabolic multimorbidity, I don't know what a milligram is either.
Yeah, it's 1,000th of a gram.
Yeah.
I know that. The thing about it is I because I had my wonky heartbeat last year, which has been resolved, and I just went to see my cardiologist to make sure it's still not wonky, and everything turned out great.
Excellent.
I mean, I couldn't have had a better report. Blood pressure, everything just textbook, so it was good. But they're asking me questions, and they asked the question about, how much alcohol do you consume? And I said, maybe a drink or 2 a week. That's not much. And then do you smoke? No, I don't smoke. And then they wanted to know about caffeine. You drink caffeine? I said, hell yes. I get up in the morning, and it's my favorite part of the day is having it. But that's it. I drink 1 cup of coffee, and that's it. I might drink a soda, with lunch, and that's caffeine. Some of it's got caffeine. But I mean, I don't know that I would consume 3 coffee cups worth of caffeine.
Yeah. Just for reference, I looked this up. An average cup of coffee has about 100 milligrams of caffeine in it.
All right.
So 1/10 of a gram.
Yeah. Sure.
Something like that.
I don't know what difference that makes, but okay.
Maybe if you just smell the coffee, you will. Now, it doesn't say anything about those who smoke. I remember as a smoker, there was no better cup of coffee than with that morning cigarette. So so for you smokers out there, if you're still doing that, I don't know if this pertains to you.
It just cancels each other out.
I don't think cancel each other out.
Right.
All right. And on that note, we'll call it 5:50 on Super Talk 99.7. Hey, let me tell you about the folks at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. They can help you with your back pain. Here's the number, 615-246-5009. Get the help you need by going to the Wellness Institute of Nashville. But what I need to tell you about is that the Wellness Institute of Nashville is throwing a community party in their backyard at the Charlie Daniels Park in Mount Juliet. This event is free. That's right, you heard it correctly. This is to honor our local police officers, our firefighters, our first responders, and, of course, our veterans. Now, not only is it free, it's absolutely free. It also has country music legends Brian White and Colin Ray will be performing live, a full concert set, and Colin is revealing a brand new song that he's wrote just for this event. It's a concert you don't want to miss. Some of the Super Talk folks will be there on location, as well as our sister station, 95.5 Nash Icon. So bring your lawn chairs, your blankets, and get ready to party at the biggest community event Mount Juliet has hosted. The Love Our City concert, sponsored by Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley at the Wellness Institute of Nashville.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
6 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Lebanon's Hezbollah is blaming Israel for exploding pagers, killing 9 and maiming thousands of its members today, including Iran's envoy to Beirut, who was wounded. Israel has said it will not be commenting. We asked Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett, who tells WTN's Matt Murphy show he's limited to what he can say. However,
apparently it is a very coordinated high-tech attack, and they've used some of this stuff similar in the past, but this is the first time they've done it in such numbers, and that's all I'm free to talk about on that.
Hezbollah uses pagers to avoid Israeli detection, and it calls today the biggest security breach in its war with Israel. Congressman Burchett's a member of the House Oversight Committee who questioned the Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle on the first attempted assassination of former President Trump in July. Burchett telling WTN's Matt Murphy show what he thinks about calls for more funding of the U.S. Secret Service in light of what happened on Sunday.
On one side of the mouth, they're saying we need more resources, and then said we've got the best there is. So which is it? They're going to ask for more money. That's going to be the bottom line. They don't need more money. They got a cultural problem over there.
While Congressman Burchett has harsh criticism of the Secret Service, he complimented the agents who were able to spot and open fire on that suspect at the former president's golf course on Sunday. Right now in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis is working to bring the suspect, Ryan Routh, up on state attempted murder charges. DeSantis argues an attempted murder case in state court would be more straightforward and more transparent.
In my judgment, it's not in the best interest of our state or our nation to have the same federal agencies that are seeking to prosecute Donald Trump leading this investigation, especially when the most serious, straightforward offense constitutes a violation of state law, but not federal law.
Federal prosecutors have so far brought 2 firearms charges against Ryan Routh. They've suggested he could also be charged with attempting to assassinate a presidential candidate. Election 2024, election officials are worried the U.S. Postal Service will not be able to handle the volume of mail-in ballots, so they're asking voters to be proactive to ensure their ballots are counted. Nashville Elections Administrator Jeff Roberts telling Channel 4 what to do if you plan to request an absentee ballot.
When you receive it, go ahead and mark it and put it back in the mail to us. That way you don't have to be worried as much about did it get delayed and not arrive in time to be counted.
Already 4,200 voters have requested absentee ballots in Davidson County, with as many as 10,000 expected to actually vote absentee in the end. You have until October 29th to request absentee ballots. The voter registration deadline is October 7th. Early voting starts October 16th. And that's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It is 7 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive on this 17th day of September. Hope you've had a good work day. Let's go home and kick off the shoes, put on your slippers, relax for the evening, and I hope while you're driving home and you're on your way there, you could pick up a thing or two from me. I'm going to play a soundbite here that occurred today. We don't talk much about what's happening at the White House because Joe Biden doesn't do much these days. But in the wake of the assassination attempt on Donald Trump this weekend, there has been a call by the Trump campaign to try to cool the rhetoric a little bit because, they continually talk about Donald Trump as a threat to democracy, etc. And here's what Caroline Leavitt from the Trump campaign had to say about that earlier today.
He is the most threatened man in the world right now. President Trump absolutely needs more protection. I think all Americans would agree with that. And again, it's up to the Democrats. The onus is on them to turn down the rhetoric in this country. They are just repeating that talking point because they have nothing else to run on in this election, and it's shameful.
I'm going to play a soundbite. It runs, a better part of 3 minutes. And in the middle, you're going to get a little irritated. This is Peter Doocy asking a very pointed question in the direction of Karine Jean-Pierre, who has, during this briefing earlier, once again called Donald Trump a threat to democracy. And he asked a very good question, I think.
Thank you, Karine. It's been only 2 days since somebody allegedly tried to kill Donald Trump again. And you're here at the podium in the White House briefing room calling him a threat. How many more assassination attempts on Donald Trump until the president and the vice president and you pick a different word to describe Trump other than threat?
Peter, if anything from this administration, I actually completely disagree with the premise of your question, the question that you're asking. It is also incredibly dangerous in the way that you're asking it because American people are watching. And to say that from an administration who has consistently condemned political violence, from an administration where the president called the former president and was thankful, grateful that he was okay, from an administration who has called out January 6th, called out the attack of Paul Pelosi, called out and said we need to lower the temperature after the Butler incident. And now for you to make that kind of comment in your question, because your question involved a comment and a statement. And
no, it didn't. First of all, the comment was a question. It was a legitimate question that many on our side want answered. And now she's all up and defensive because we have accused her of doing the very thing that everybody says we need to pull back on. Using the word threat to describe Donald Trump and the Trump candidacy.
It is, that is also incredibly dangerous. When we have been very clear in condemning political violence from here, what I have said about the president, the former president, about January 6th is facts that you all have reported. It is fact. When you have a former president who basically says that the election wasn't, the results of the election were not the results of the election. When dozens of more than 60 Republican judges said that it was a free and fair election. More than 60 said it was indeed a free and fair election. You had more than 2,000 people who were told to go to the Capitol. It was one of the darkest days of our democracy.
He was told to go to the Capitol and to peacefully express your point of view. Donald Trump never told him to go down there and break into the place. She's wrong about that.
One of the darkest days. There were law enforcement officers who died because of what happened
That is very much in question.
At the Capitol. And they were there because the former president told them to go there. I mean, I don't know if that's not a threat in our democracy when it was one of the darkest days of our democracy, January 6th, one of the darkest days. And so we have been very clear from here. Now, we can have a disagreement on policies. We can, on issues. That is what we should do. It is important to have those disagreements. It is welcome to have those disagreements on the economy, on health care, on foreign policy. But when you start bringing political rhetoric, that is not okay. And
well, no, it's absolutely within bounds to say that some political rhetoric is inflammatory. It gins up crazy people to do crazy things.
That's what you've heard from us, too. You've heard of differences on policies.
But to your point, there are people watching at home who might miss the part where you say, let's lower the temperature, and there are mentally unstable people who are attempting to kill political candidates, attempting to kill Donald Trump, and they are still hearing this White House refer to him as a threat. Is there no concern that people are taking that literally?
We're using examples. We're not just saying that just to say it. January 6th, Peter. January 6th.
And there she goes again on January 6th. Well, here's a list of things that the Trump campaign has put out to talk about the rhetoric that's coming from the other side. Kamala Harris repeatedly has said the following because, she reads the same speech everywhere she goes. Trump is a threat to our democracy and fundamental freedoms. She has also said it is on us to recognize the threat that Trump poses. She has also said, does one have to come out of it alive? She was talking, if that was a thing at Ellen. She was on the Ellen show back in the day. And she said the following.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be? Does one of us have to come out alive?
She said that. Joe Biden has said, you know what? It's time to put a Trump in a bullseye. He actually said that. He said, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Trump is a threat to the nation. He also said, there is one existential threat. It is Donald Trump. Joe Biden also said, Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. He's literally a threat to everything that America stands for. That's no reference to 9/11. Joe Biden, Trump and MAGA Republicans are a threat to the very soul of this country. He thinks you are a threat. Joe Biden, Trump, and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic, and that is a threat to our country. No mention of January 6th in that statement. Tim Walz, are Republicans a threat to democracy? Yes. And are they going to put people's lives in danger? Yes. I mean, if you're out there and you've got a screw loose to begin with and you're a little deranged and you hear this threat, everybody from Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and now Karine Jean-Pierre saying the same thing, Donald Trump is a threat, you might think he's a threat. Nancy Pelosi, Trump is a threat toward democracies of the kind we have not seen. Representative Jasmine Crockett, MAGA in general, they are threats to us domestically. Representative Dan Goldman, he is destructive to our democracy, and he has to be eliminated. I'm not making that up. T.J. Ducklow, remember him? He used to work for the mayor here in town. He went back to the Harris campaign, and then he got fired. Trump is an existential, urgent threat to our democracy. Hakeem Jeffries, we must stop Trump. Representative Mike Sherrill, this really seems to be the confluence of two very bad things going on in the Republican Party. The attempts to divide, to enrage the population. State Representative Stephen Woodrow of Colorado, the last thing America needed was sympathy for the devil, but here we are. Alex Witt in MSNBC. Do you expect there'll be calls within the Trump campaign to tone it down? Yeah. So, look, I've got another thing I haven't played yet. This was done by somebody else, a montage of all the things that have been said about suggesting that violence is needed. You ready?
Know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look, as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
That was Madonna, believe it or not. I mean, this goes on for another 2 minutes. People on the left calling for violence, in effect. And we've had now 2 people try to kill Trump because there are these people out there who aren't balanced, who take this kind of stuff and they just slurp it up. And this is not within the boundary of good political debate. Kamala, we had Corrine here just saying a few moments ago, it's fair to talk about the issues. Yeah, that's fine. Let's talk about the issues. Let's talk about where we disagree. But it seems that there are a great number of Democrats who have this TDS, this Trump derangement syndrome, and they just feel like they got to go a step further and keep describing him in various ways. Essentially, they're saying he's a threat to our way of life. It's no wonder that there are people out there trying to take a crack at the guy. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Again, Peter Ducey asked a great question today, and it seems to me that Karine Jean-Pierre simply just wanted to try to wiggle her way out of it and claim it had, all of her statements had been about, January 6th. That's not true. It's simply not true. And it's not true when you talk about Kamala Harris. It's not true when you talk about the President of the United States, Joe Biden. It's not true when you talk about Nancy Pelosi. None of those things had to do with January 6th. Not at all. 20 minutes now past the hour. Have some exciting news for you. Many of you who have lived here a long time, you know that Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee, a place to go for your European car repairs for some 24 years. And we've watched them grow. And I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, we're really proud, and they're very proud to announce the 5th location of Eurofix now in Mount Juliet on Mount Juliet Road, right across from the Dairy Queen. Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now in Mount Juliet. It's a beautiful facility. You should see it. Pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting at a barn in the backyard of his single-wide trailer grow to 5 locations, repairing thousands of cars each month. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair. So call this number, 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price At checkout, you don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
"24 minutes now past the hour. I stumbled across a great article by my old friend Kerry Pickett, who writes for the Washington Times. This is not, you're not going to hear this anywhere else. This is a story that is wildly underreported. The FBI senior official to top the investigation in Florida of the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump has been called out by Bureau whistleblowers for his rabid hatred of Mr. Trump and retaliation against FBI personnel who support the former president. FBI Miami Field Office Special Agent in Charge Jeffrey Veltri was ordered by superiors to scrub his social media accounts of his anti-Trump vitriol before he was promoted to his current position, an FBI whistleblower reported to Congress last year. Those allegations reported exclusively by the Washington Times in November of 2023. Tristan Levitt, an FBI whistleblower attorney and president of the nonprofit watchdog group Empower Oversight, said Mr. Veltri held his position as Deputy Assistant Director of the FBI's Security Division when the so-called Trump questionnaire was used. His bias against conservatives and those of his deputy, Dina Perkins, permeated the unit, Mr. Levitt wrote recently on X. The Washington Times reached out to the FBI for comment. As the Times exclusively reported, the FBI whistleblower described Mr. Veltri as adamantly and vocally anti-Trump and said FBI Director Christopher A. Wray, Deputy Director Paul Abate, and then Executive Assistant Director Jennifer Moore were involved in directing Mr. Veltri to scrub his social media accounts. The home of President Donald Trump is located in the area of responsibility of the Miami Field Office. It is well known that Veltri was adamantly and vocally anti-Trump, and the whistleblower said the whistleblower disclosure to Congress, which the Times has obtained. Wray, Abate, and Moore wanted to ensure that Veltri appeared non-political. Veltri was ordered to remove all of his Facebook and social media posts that were anti-Trump. The whistleblower said the Bureau's leaders weren't concerned about Mr. Veltri's bias against Trump, but whether information related to Veltri's political bias can be removed from the public domain. Mr. Veltri, who served as acting Deputy Assistant Director of the Bureau's Security Division until March, also oversaw efforts to suspend agents' security clearances if they seemed to be a right-wing radical, according to the disclosure. Whose judgment was that? The FBI said the whistleblower's allegation about Mr. Veltri were false. The FBI said Mr. Veltri was selected through a competitive process to lead the Miami field office and is charged with carrying out the FBI mission in a fair and unbiased manner. The Bureau added the reported allegations about political bias impacting decisions, the targeting of former military employees, and the special agent in charge, Veltri's social media accounts and posts are demonstrably false, they said. When Mr. Veltri took the lead role in the FBI probe in Florida, his critics took note. Judicial Watch President Tom Fenton referenced the Times report about Mr. Veltri and wrote on X, conflict of interest. The Biden-Harris FBI, which is right now trying to jail Trump, is investing 2 attempts on his life. Beyond Mr. Veltri's involvement, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis cast doubt and suspicion on federal authorities conducting the investigation and announced that there would be a state-run probe, thank God, into the assassination attempt. I don't think anyone can honestly claim that the federal government has been forthright and transparent about its past investigations, says Mr. DeSantis. That's just the reality. That's how these guys operate. The FBI announced Mr. Veltri's promotion to head of the Miami field office in March of 23, more than a year after the Bureau raided Mr. Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida looking for classified documents. Mr. Veltri first came under congressional scrutiny after whistleblowers from the FBI's security division said Bureau officials were trying to purge agents with conservative political views, labeling them radical or disloyal to the United States. Suspect behavior included refusing to get a COVID-19 vaccination or participating in religious activities. They went to church. They were considered radical. Mr. Veltri and Security Division Assistant Chief Dina Perkins were accused in another whistleblower disclosure of trying to sideline agents, including military veterans, by stripping them of their security clearances. The FBI has denied those allegations as well. Whistleblower complaints don't come out of thin air, generally. And whistleblowers are supposed to be protected. Does anybody out there doubt the veracity of this story who's watched the actions of the FBI and the Department of Justice to weaponize the Department of Justice and the FBI to conduct investigations against Trump? Political investigations. Something doesn't smell right here. 30 minutes past the hour.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
It is 36 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I think I'll do some 2024 news here and give you some information that you may not have heard. I'll just dip my toe barely into the numbers. Pennsylvania, battleground state. Insider advantage, Trump up by 2. USA Today says of the same Keystone State, Pennsylvania, Harris up by 3. I don't know. It seems like to me it's like, everything you see, it's like, it's all within the margin of error. Georgia, Trafalgar has Trump up by 1. I want you to hear, though, what Tom Bevan had to say. General election numbers, don't read too much into them right now because, you have to have it's not the general election numbers that matter. It's the battleground states. And to him, he thinks that, well, the battleground and everything is starting to look a lot like the 2016 election. Here's Tom Bevan, the guy who runs Real Clear Politics.
This race looks an awful lot like 2016 to me. If you look at nationally, Kamala Harris is up 1.7% at our Real Clear Politics average. Remember, Hillary Clinton won that race by 2.1%, but lost in the Electoral College. And if you look at those 7 battleground states, and Michigan's the one that we include in that group, the biggest lead that anybody has there is less than 1.5 points. And if you take an average of the leads of those 7 states, Kamala Harris leads by 0.1%. It is literally that close across the board. I think 4 or 5 of these states, the margin there is less than 0.5 percentage point. So it is really, really close in those battleground states.
Okay, so that you have the poll, and then lately I've been really more interested in some of the anecdotal evidence that seems to be coming in from people who've been out there in some of these battleground states, talking to people, trying to find out where they are. Not the pollsters, but I mean, just having everyday conversations with people in a diner. Over at CBS, Major Garrett is an old friend of mine. I used to work with him at Fox. He's now a chief political correspondent over at CBS News. And he recently said that, he was traveling through some of the Midwestern battleground states. And he said, look, you need to understand that the strength of Trump is palpable and real. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And by the way, I really trust Major. I do. As somebody, even though he works for CBS, who plays it up the middle. I know him quite well, worked alongside him for a long time. And when he says something like that, it catches my attention. Here is now Adriana Diaz on the CBS Morning News. And she's been in Nevada. And she didn't go in there, with any kind of pollster unit. She went in there just to talk to people, average people she ran into in diners and restaurants.
I like that. So much fun. But what was really incredible is in every single restaurant of the people willing to talk to us, we could only find one Harris supporter in every restaurant. And we left no stone unturned. I approached every single person.
And said she couldn't find anybody who was supporting Harris, or very few people. Suggesting that the vast majority of people that she ran into in restaurants, we're talking about not employees, but the diners. The thing about Nevada, which is hard to understand, is that it is very much union run. So unions have a lot of power there. The unions are very powerful in Las Vegas for sure. As the unions go, so do a lot of votes. But it is also a place where people live on tips, and believe me, they didn't buy that stuff. That, Kamala Harris suddenly came up with this idea, no taxes on tips, without having been goaded into it by Trump. They know where that originated. They've got that figured out. And what about the other thing? No taxes on overtime? That works with those kind of folks who work in those kind of jobs in Nevada. And then, no taxes on Social Security benefits. I love that idea. I think it's great. So those kind of things may be resonating with the worker bees who are not unionized in Las Vegas, people who depend on tips for their livelihood. Wouldn't it be great? All you folks out there who work in an environment where, part of what you get paid is from the tips that you make. You may not make much of an hourly wage, but you make a pretty good fair amount if you're a good waiter or waitress in a high level restaurant. You can make a lot of money. I mean, I've been out. If you go out into a really nice restaurant in Nashville, and you got 4 people ordering entrees and drinks and a glass of wine or a bottle of wine, and at the end of it, you've got a pretty hefty tab there. 20% of that tab is significant money. And you look around and the place is crowded, so there's a lot of people doing that, right? You can make some good money. To have that tip money come to you untaxed, what a benefit that would be. Well, anyway, I just think it's pretty interesting what we're beginning to hear anecdotally from folks. Now, the question that a lot of people are trying to figure out is, did the Harris-Trump debate change the race? Now, you may disagree with me. My feeling, I've been very clear about this. I don't think this last debate was particularly good for Trump. I think it was a better debate. Most people who watched the debate and were polled on it later said they thought, well, that she won. But did she really win? And did it move any votes? Did it move the needle? From Real Clear Polling, which is the same folks who do Real Clear Politics, last week's debate, the long-awaited high-stakes face-off between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump did little to move the political needle. Listen to this. A look at the RCP average over time shows Harris' fortunes have not been distinctly altered by her winning performance. Pre-debate, Harris led Trump by 1.1 points. A week later after the debate, 1.8. That's not a lot. That's, 0.7 of a point. That's not hard. That's not moving the needle very much. From FoxNews.com, a different take on that seems to show the same thing. New poll reveals this political event swayed only a fraction of Harris-Trump supporters. Only a handful of voters say that last week's presidential debate caused them to reconsider their support for either Vice President Kamala Harris or former President Donald Trump, according to a new national poll. A slew of political pundits and media analysts said that Harris bested Trump in the debate, their first and potentially only face-to-face encounter ahead of Election Day. However, only 3% of debate watchers said the showdown in Philadelphia caused them to consider whom they might support as president. This, according to a just-released Monmouth University national poll, came out today. Just more than 7 in 10 respondents said that the debate between the Democrat and Republican Party presidential nominees did not raise any doubts about the candidate that they were already supporting in the White House race. 8% of those surveyed said some doubts were raised, but the debate did not change their mind on support. Additionally, this is pretty interesting, 17% offered that they did not see or hear any part of the debate. How much this election is shifting is measured in inches rather than yards, said Monmouth University Polling Institute Director Patrick Murray. We're basically at the point where we're turning out 10,000 extra voters, and key swing states could determine the outcome. Polling tell us that the broad contours of this race, but cannot measure the types of micro shifts, Murray emphasized. I could not agree more with anything. It could be 10,000 votes in a key battleground state that wins or decides this election. It really could be that. And it is that tight. Again, yeah, she's leading a little bit in the general election polls. Doesn't mean much because it's not the general election polls to decide. I will say this. I said it yesterday. I'll say it again. I've looked at the numbers, and this does look like a 2016 election. It looks like an election where Kamala Harris might win by 2% of the general election popular vote, but does not win the Electoral College because she's not in near as good a shape as Hillary Clinton was, and she lost. Certainly doesn't look like the Joe Biden election at all. She's about 5 points behind where Biden was at this point in the race. So, look, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I know I'm in the weeds, but I'm thinking this is going to be tight right down to the wire. It's going to depend on the ground game that you have. It's going to depend on, who gets more people out there. And by the way, in some of these battleground states, a lot more Republicans have been registered than you might know. There's too many factors in each individual state, and each state has its own weird proclivities that sort of have an impact on how things might unload, and different laws, by the way, about how you conduct elections. But it's going to be tight, and I'll go ahead and make a brash prediction right here. Not a brash condition, because it's maybe rash, but it's brash as well. I think that we're not going to know the winner of the election for about a week, if then. And I think we're going to have loads of lawsuits Lots of things, where they're trying to determine. We may have ourselves something akin to the hanging Chad election. Something like that could happen. I'll leave you with this thought, though. Taylor Swift endorsement of Harris prompts more people to vote for Trump. Oh, this makes me laugh so much. Following the presidential debate, pop singer Taylor Swift endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris in the upcoming election. The climate-conscious singer's endorsement was perhaps no surprise, given her political positions. In the mid-2018 midterm elections, she endorsed Democrats here in Tennessee, and she publicly endorsed the Biden-Harris ticket in 2020. While predictable, the singer, whose songs often contained references to her own bad decision-making, was expected to carry some weight in convincing moderate Swifties to vote Democrat. However, that's not happening. While Donald Trump may hate Taylor Swift, Harris must feel the same to some extent as well following the release of a YouGov poll on Saturday. Only 8% of respondents to the poll said that Taylor Swift endorsement is somewhat or much more likely to convince them to vote Democrat. Interestingly enough, so that's 8% have said, yeah, it might impact my vote. 20% of respondents said they are now somewhat or much less likely to vote to support Harris. They're somewhat or less likely to support Harris. So 8% says it helps. 20% says it makes me more likely to vote against her. Many respondents were split as to whether Swift endorsement will have a positive effect on Harris's campaign. 32% said no difference at all. Let's see. 32% said they think it will have a positive effect. 27% said no difference at all. And fans made up some 34% of those surveyed, with the biggest supporters being female. But end of the day, Taylor Swift, her much worried about, we've got to send this story to Dan Mandis. He's been very worried about the Taylor Swift impact. But the Taylor Swift endorsement did not move the needle at all. And I think perhaps more importantly, neither did the debate, not in a significant way. People are sort of locked into where they are. And they're right. The changes that will be coming are not big changes. They're going to be micro shifts. 50 minutes now past the hour.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.